the end game, and we're approaching it, and that is proper use of LERTA. We can't do any better than that. We are getting nothing from the land, and we're going to get in 2027, probably $1 million, maybe more. Thank you.
And if I could, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sabatino,
I'm
then
sorry,
Mr.
I'm
Haas.
sorry,
Go
did I
ahead,
say-
sorry.
I mean, Harry, I really do appreciate what you're trying to do here, but it's kind of like negotiating in bad faith. Some of us went out to negotiate this and try and get a better fee schedule based on things that were said in the last meeting. And I don't want to put mud on all of our faces by saying we're going to do something and bring it forward, and then out of the blue, this comes out of the woodwork. And the second point I have is most of the roads, if not all of them in Hazle Township, in that part of Hazle Township, are run by the township. They are like maintained by Hazle Township. If they've already approved this LERTA, who are we to stand in the way?
Mr. Haas.
I appreciate the discussion. I wish I were invited to the dialogue, because I'm the reason why this happened. I brought it up last meeting, so I would appreciate it if you would have called me on that. But nonetheless, the principals talked about the bottle company next door, that they want this property. The Niagara company needs this property. So again, the need is already there. And again, it's a supply and demand thing. I talk about the same thing every time a LERTA comes up, but I think it would behoove us to really maybe have a bigger discussion about this behind the scenes. I can kind of see where this is all going, so I won't belabor the meeting, but I would have liked to be part of the dialogue when it was taking place. Thanks.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Chairman. First, I'd like to say that democracy is discourse, and it is being able to disagree with one another. First, I'd like to commend the council members who worked so hard on this, especially Councilman Sabatino. We've discussed LERTAs at length here. The LERTA exception is for land that otherwise might not be built upon. A good example of that was the land in Exeter with the infamous boat. But there are companies who want to build here. There are companies who already want to build here without this LERTA. They've in fact already broken ground. Vice Chair Thornton discussed jobs, but these jobs are warehouse jobs. They're not careers, and frankly, many of those jobs are likely going to go to people in Carbon County, not necessarily Luzerne County residents. And we've discussed in this council many times that we have many, many warehouses. We have too many warehouse jobs. And finally, to touch on the school taxes, as Vice Chair Thornton discussed, these companies have already broken ground, and as Councilman Haas has already brought up, they want this land, and I think the people deserve to understand that this land is going to be built on whether or not it seems that there is a LERTA. And to touch on the school taxes, without the LERTA, the school taxes would be getting more taxes, and the school would be benefiting more without the LERTA, because we know that they've already broken ground and they'll be building. I just think it's important for the public to understand exactly how this is working, and the fact that they have broken ground. They're going to use this land. This isn't land that needs help being built on, because it's being built on already. Thank you.
Ms. McDermott?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Harry, why didn't you bring that schedule forward? Because it's something that we definitely could have considered, and if Mr. Sabatino was working on it, that could have been helpful at that time. But also, didn't we have a committee, or at least Carl used to be on some kind of a committee that was researching all the LERTAs? Do we still with that? I thought
I'm
he
sure
was
we can
working on
fold
that.
that responsibility into one of our committees that we already have.
But he started
I
that.
will
and
gladly
don't think
take it in the
anybody-
infrastructure committee.
What was it? The review committee, possibly? That might have been.
But I mean, it's a
what it
good
was.
place. It's a good
Yeah.
place to start, and then
Mhm.
at least talk about the different LERTAs that we have, what ones will be coming up.
Sure.
I think-
Historically, it was for the review committee,
Right.
so that we could hash out these issues in a committee session and not wait for a voting session of county council. But I want everybody to be clear about this particular LRTA. This LRTA actually, the tenant pays for the taxes, not the developer. The tenant gets the break as an incentive to bring the jobs and move into the area. It's not the developer. The developer does not get the tax break. It's a pass-through, and it's to incentivize companies to come to the area. So I don't want anybody on this particular LRTA to think that the developer is getting the tax break. Developer is not getting the tax break. It will be the tenant that gets the tax break, just so everybody's clear.
Thank you. And while we're on the subject of school taxes, as several council members have mentioned, just to reinforce sort of why I wholeheartedly support LRTAs, is from the similar program that Councilman Haas mentioned, the KOZ program, which, as we have seen in local newspapers right now is budget season for our school districts, and many of them in this county have had to raise taxes significantly. Wyoming area had to raise them over 6% 2 years in a row. But there's one school district in the county that has not had to raise taxes in several years, and it's 100% thanks to the fact that they gave these types of tax abatements out. And it's the Pittston Area School District, and they should be commended for that work that they've done many years ago in making those votes. And I know that it wasn't easy at the time, and I remember it very well. And, when we go around the table and have these discussions, it sometimes isn't easy ourselves, but we will reap massive benefits from this very soon. I mean, Councilman Perry mentioned 2027. That's $1 million. $1 million is going to go a long way in this budget in 2027, coupled with the $25 million we won't be paying in 2030. And all of the other LRTAs that we have approved over the last few years that will then, come online and give us millions and millions of more dollars to spend on these projects that we need to get done here throughout the county. Mr. Thornton?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
And then
just
Mr.
to
Smith.
dovetail off what you just said, follow that through to the next thought, which is, had Pittston area not granted those KOZs or LRTAs over those years, right now, sitting in a position of not receiving all those extra additional taxes. Where are they going to get the tax money? They go back to the common person, the mom and pops, and they have to raise their taxes, just like Wyoming Area School District did, over 16 or 17% in the last 3 years. We don't have room for development there. We can't even entertain large tracts of land or anything like that. But to Mr. Perry's point, which was a very good point, that $1 million additional money in 1 year now, had they not set those up 10 years ago when you were on council, that $1 million wouldn't be coming in now. So where would we get that $1 million? We'd have to sit here and go to the taxpayers, these guys, and get that $1 million. And I don't want to raise their taxes when I could have in the past got those taxes from the tenants of these developments. I don't want to raise the people's taxes.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The school taxes are a moot point at this point. They're a moot point now because this ground has already been broken. They're building on this ground. That means that they'll be paying taxes with or without the LRTA. With the LRTA, they'll be paying less taxes and the school will be getting less money. Without the LRTA, they'll be paying more taxes and the school will be getting more tax money. And to Chairman Lombardo's point, we have given out many LRTAs in the past. I was not on the council when many of them were put out. This has been something that Luzerne County has done over and over and over again. And I want to make clear that I'm not against all LRTAs. I do believe they have a purpose. However, when we're looking at a place that's already broken ground, that we know is going to get built on, that we know will then pay taxes, I don't understand why we're cutting into our own tax revenue. And I apologize, as I was saying before, to Chairman Lombardo's point, we've given many LRTAs out before, and if the math is correct, we should be reaping millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of money from those LRTAs, and I just don't see it. I might be the only one, but I've spoken to many people who are not on the council, and they don't see it. I've spoken to ordinary citizens, they don't see it. Where is the income that we should have gotten from the previous LRTAs? It's because a lot of businesses leave after 10 years.
I don't,
That's not,
I don't,
yeah, Mr. Wilovich,
Okay, first of all, most of the LRTAs that we've instated haven't expired yet, so after 10 years, they'll start reaping the benefits. Second of all, I believe, as Romilda said, the tenants are the ones that are reaping the benefits. If we don't have tenants yet, the tenants could just pick up and say, we don't want to come in there. The buildings aren't built, the tenants aren't there. The tenants can just say, listen, we're not coming anymore. So we'll have an empty building. Who's paying the taxes? But I'd like to call the question because this is going
Okay.
on and on for no.
all right. Okay, there's a motion and a second for the amendment. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Ms. Krishnowski?
We're doing roll call on the amendment for the LRTA schedule to change it to the aforementioned, what Mr. Haas mentioned.
Mr. Liscavige? No. Ms. McDermott? No. Mr. Perry? No. Mr. Sabatino?
No.
Ms. Smith?
As it stands, no.
Ms. Stevenson? No. Mr. Thornton?
No.
Mr. Wilovich?
No.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
No.
We have 1 yes and 10 no. It fails.
Okay, the amendment fails. We have a motion and a second on the original resolution, the original LRTA. Roll call?
Well, on the question,
Go ahead.
just to specify the resolution, though, that's in our packet,
It's,
it's not the 80% one.
no,
right?
no, this is the one that's on the attachments, the addendums that are on the side of your packet.
Could I just state it
page
for
3.
public record?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It is year 1 through 7, 80% property tax abatement. Year 8, 70%. Year 9, 60%. Year 10, 50%. And also, question, on the literature we received, page 22 of our packets, there seems to be a discrepancy in the math. If you look at page 22, the first bullet point reads, the project can add more than $1 million of increased property tax revenues annually to the local jurisdictions after LRTA. However, the second bullet point, if you just read the main words, the taxing jurisdictions are expected to realize after ranging from nearly 90,000 year 1 to greater than 300,000 by year 10 from taxes on that land. So is it $1 million or is it 300,000? Because both read the taxing jurisdictions. It's not specifying one jurisdiction over another.
The schedule, Mr. Thornton, I apologize for interrupting you, but the schedule on the next page does say what it would be. At year 11, it would be $338,000.
So that's to the, that's to the
$338,050
county.
to the county.
So
I'm assuming that million is
I-
probably,
The million probably includes like the school district and the
Yeah.
local.
Okay, I didn't, from reading that, I couldn't gather that. Okay, thank you.
okay. All right. There's a motion and a second. Roll call?
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
I'd like to again commend Councilman Sabatino especially for this new schedule. I think it's an excellent schedule. I just don't think that this particular project is an appropriate use of LRTA. No.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
I'd like to thank publicly Mr. Sabatino for putting the work in and taking the initiative to go forward and change that schedule, which will benefit the county even more for long term. And I vote yes. Thank you.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
9 yes, 2 no, it passes.
Thank you. Number 3, motion to adopt the resolution requesting a multimodal transportation fund grant from Pennsylvania Commonwealth Financing Authority. Motion and a second. Roll call?
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 4, motion to adopt the resolution granting an easement with Gigapower LLC over Luzerne County-owned real property in Hanover Township.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige? Yes. Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 5, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Michael Beloga, the Foot and Ankle Center.
So moved.
Second.
On a question.
Motion and a second. Go ahead.
On a question, in the literature, turn back to page 50, 50. I'm a little, just concerned a little bit. If you look at page 50, and about 2/3 of the way down under extension of period of performance, number 1 says, explain the reason for the request. And the answer from the subrecipient was, currently, we're still waiting for equipment to be ordered and shipped. I wonder why they haven't even ordered it. I could understand it wasn't shipped to them yet, but why wasn't it ordered? I think they had the money maybe for over a year. That's what I'm a little concerned about. Also, does anybody have an answer to that? If anybody, I don't know, Ms. Barrett does. Also on page 50. Up.
Go ahead, Ms. Barrich.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, when I called to see if he would be attending, Dr. Beloga, he is not available. So if you have any questions, I will certainly email him. And then I explained that if there were questions and we couldn't answer, that it would have to be tabled until the next meeting.
Well, that would certainly be a question of mine, why we're sitting on the money here, and it does tie up that money, which could have gone elsewhere, and the equipment was not even ordered. I would imagine he would have known what equipment he was seeking when he put in for the amount of money, and it's been over a year, maybe longer. And secondly, I'm just curious that here it is, July 23rd, and he's requesting a extension from the deadline of June 30th. And it would seem to me that normally one would request an extension of time before the term expired. Normally, in my life, we would request an extension before June 30th and not after June 30th, when the expiration date already passed. Now, I went to look at his letter. He wrote a one-sentence letter where he's requesting the extension. That's on page 52. But I don't see a date on his letter. I don't know when he wrote this letter, when he submitted it, when we received it. And I just think it's odd that we, I don't know. Go ahead, Ms. Sparrows.
I can tell you that he's not the only subrecipient who was not on top of the deadline
Okay.
that we had put in the agreement. So he's not the only individual who is requesting an extension after the fact.
Okay, I think it's important to gauge the importance of this to the doctor. I want to know why the equipment wasn't even ordered in over a year.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I would like to rescind my motion,
Okay.
so that way we can table this.
Would somebody like to make a motion to table then? I mean,
Yeah,
you could make a
motion
motion.
to table.
Okay.
Can I-
There's a motion and a second to table. Roll call?
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
I would venture a guess there might be some supply chain issues, but yes, table it.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas? Yes. Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige? Yes. Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
11, unanimous, it's tabled.
Okay, thank you. Number 6, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Hazle Township. There's a motion and a second. Roll call?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 7, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Larksville Borough.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Roll call?
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 8, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Sugarloaf Township.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I don't know. Who? I wasn't paying attention.
Stevenson.
Ms. Stevenson? Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Roll call?
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 9, motion to adopt the resolution to enter into a new lease with the United States government for property located on Route 11 Wyoming Avenue in Wyoming Borough.
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Second was Ms. Krishnowski.
I have
Okay.
Mr. Liscavige.
Mr. Liscavige and Ms. Krishnowski, sure. Roll call?
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. Number 10, motion to adopt the resolution confirming the appointment of Division Head of Judicial Records and Services. All right, and the person that Manager Crocomo is recommending is Paula Raddick at the salary of $98,682.
Chairman Lombardo,
Yes.
that was an error.
Oh.
I transposed some numbers.
Oh, I
It's 90
apologize.
And I would ask that there's a motion, it's $96,862.35.
Can
I'll
you
make that
repeat?
motion.
Can you repeat that? 96,000.
$862.35.
Okay.
That was my error.
There's a motion for that amendment, and there's a second. Roll call on the amendment. Yeah.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. On the original motion with the amended salary. Roll call.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. We'll now move into public comment. Anybody for public comment? Oh, Mr. Griffith.
Let's see.
I think
Yeah,
it's
we're
on.
still on. Okay. The only public comment that I have for the council this evening is, last council session, we had a discussion about the $500,000 for the Luzerne County Fair. And we remember that Mr. Fitzgerald stood here and had made comments that there are people that, on council, that may have or may not have received funding, and that was the possibility as to why they were voting the way they were voting. So as the controller, I thought it was my duty to go out and take a look at the campaign finance reports to verify that information, because either he was incorrect or that information needs to be clarified. And as somebody who reviewed the campaign finance reports ad nauseum in '23 to make sure everybody was in compliance, I was able to look through all the records to find out that nobody on council has received any money from the pews. Nobody. So the ability for the man to stand here and accuse council of a quote-unquote quid pro quo, I think, was disingenuous at best. But I did do the research, and I did check it for council's edification to find out, just in case that possibly could have been true. but there were no one that got any money from the pews at all. So that assertion by Mr. Fitzgerald was total nonsense. So, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Anybody else for public comment in the? Yeah, this is non-agenda.
Joe Grantede, Plains. First thing I wanted to bring up was the adjudication of the 117th district. There were 4 ballots that were not counted that were witnessed by the same person, no signature on them, and dropped in a drop box, which is illegal. And I want council to get involved with that and start an investigation, because this person could have signed 400, and we don't know that. It's against the law for them to drop 4 ballots into a drop box. I'm sure that the person who couldn't sign their signature didn't do it. And I'd like to get a commitment from you guys before I have to go to District Attorney Sangalducci myself. I think it's up to you to do it.
Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to get a commitment for you guys to open that up.
This is your time to speak.
I'd like a reaction to that.
Well, we can't, we have no idea what the specifics are of any of that, so I can't,
Well,
we
that's
can't give
public
you any
knowledge.
type of,
That's public knowledge, I mean,
the best I could say is we'll take a look at it. I can't,
well, you got,
I can't give you any type of commitment, neither
okay,
can the rest of
I'll
council.
bring it up again then.
Well, we would refer that to the district attorney's
That's
office.
Right,
what
we
I'm
would
asking.
refer
Same-
that to him anyway.
Same as you would do it. I don't know what, we don't have investigative powers in the voting.
No, I'm not
In the
asking you
box.
to investigate, I'm
Okay.
asking you to get involved with, to get the district attorney to look into it.
I'll certainly ask him.
Thank you, because I was gonna do it today, but I thought since there's a meeting tonight. I read online the other day, there's 4 properties in West Nanticoke that are being bought. Are you familiar with that?
For properties of what kind? County properties, city
I
properties?
think it's for flood, it must be, it's having to do with the flood.
Okay,
And I looked at it, and it looks like whoever's buying that is buying it above the estimated value. So I just wanted to bring that out and have you look at it. Last year at this time, we gave $5 million to CEO to distribute to people that needed work done on their homes. And I'm wondering if there's any oversight on that. How many people moved off the list, where the list is at. I think it's irresponsible to give them $5 million and not follow up.
yeah, we would have to invite the director here to ask those
Well-
questions, and also that falls under ARPA as well, so we'll have to, there should be some information on that, either
Okay.
here or coming soon.
There is
Go ahead.
information,
It
and
is
they have reports that they have to submit, so we have that information.
Okay, one
All
other.
right, thank you, Mr.
one-
Grantee.
one
No,
quick-
no, Mr. Grantee, you had your 3 minutes. This is why we don't have a back and forth, so that you can get all your comments out. I gave you an opportunity
What good is it
to
if we
say
don't, if
everything.
we don't achieve anything?
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment in the audience? Anybody on the Zoom?
I have a comment. I want
Oh,
to
go ahead.
welcome Paula Raddick to the jungle, so welcome to the jungle.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the Zoom? All in favor? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. 6:46, we'll return at
Recording stopped.
6:55.
flown that thing since I've been here.
Trying to pass this off and I can't get rid of it.
They are watching, I don't see them out there now.
Yeah, they're here.
Not sure where they went, they're starting.
Hang on. So you had a little jump. That's good.
My big bro, yeah.
Oh, I don't care.
I don't care either.
How are you, Walt?
Good, Jim, how are you?
I'm good. Walter, I made a mistake. Leading this one, Okay. That's why I'm trying to get number 2.
Right?
16. Back, well then,
Right?
But it's up, I mean, whatever you wanna do, I know they, well, they have to have room for that.
So you had to get a vacuum line in?
I did, but it wasn't completely accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you say, but I don't know where they went.
Yes.
Is that on the marquee?
Yeah, no, that's on the Lincoln.
Oh, on the
It's an
Lincoln?
89 Lincoln.
Shouldn't be too many. I mean, there's some of them, a lot of them before that, when they're carbureted, there was tons of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, I feel your pain. I used to use tracer wire from phones. You know, the one with all those different colors? That's what I used to use. Because you'd wrap them around and yeah, you get it. When it comes off, you're kind of lost. It's like, you can only hope that they'll only reach to a certain spot. And that's where you can get it.
Yeah, so that they had some memory, so you could.
Exactly, yeah.
It's
Were you able
back.
to figure it out or no? Oh, did you?
My younger son came over and he's 6'8", so he's also able to do
Oh, yeah. That's
better
a big
than I can.
That's a big help.
It is.
Yeah, that's, back in the day, they used to have, I remember they used to have hundreds of them. Yeah.
And then this way, there's the clicker right there, just turn it on, and then you'll be good to go, my friend.
Yep. Yeah, I have one of those too, so.
Hey, Adam, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Excuse me, sir.
What's that, Brian?
Boy, Walter, I think you're doing a fantastic
Thank you, Councilman Thornton. You're the man.
So do I.
Wait, did they hear me say that?
They did. I just turned it off. Wow.
Thanks for doing that, Walter.
You ready to share?
All right, everybody, can you please take your seats? We'll get started. Back up in a second here.
I just threw my stuff in the back on a chair. Figured we can just.
I'll be quick, yeah, exactly.
Security guys said 20 minutes.
Oh, it's already said.
Said you had 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's what we did.
I said, no, we have to be.
I'll
Actually, I
probably
told them
be,
initially 3 hours.
I'll give you more of the time. I'll do 5, and you can do 15. And I don't think you need 15. I think you need 15. I mean, I can do 5, maybe 7.
All right, council, please take your seats so we can get started.
No, I'm good. No, I can hold. I'm going on first. I'm going on first. I can go right up here. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
All right. All right, council, I'd like to call this work session to order. We already had the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Recording in progress.
Mr. Haas?
Yes, here.
Ms. Krishnowski? Here. Mr. Lescavage? Here. Ms. McDermott? Mr. Perry? Here. Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Ms. Stevenson? Here. Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Ms. McDermott?
She's here. She said here before.
Where's she at, though?
Oh,
Here.
she's virtual. She had to leave.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
And Miss Smith just walked in.
And Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
All present.
Okay, are there any additions or deletions from the work session agenda? Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion, Mr. Chair?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda's adopted. First, we have the Baker Tilly presentation for the 2023 audit.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Andrea Kalady. I'm the partner on the audit of Luzerne County for the December 31st, 2023, along with Adam Hartzell, who's the senior manager on the engagement. The presentation, we will go over the conduct of the audit, our required communications to this committee, and also then we'll go through the financial results of the county for the year ended December 31st. Let's see. Of course, it worked before. No, it doesn't want to work. Okay. Oh, maybe that was it. Okay, so we issued the financial statements in final form on June 28th, 2024. So in line with the required date to be issued, June 30th, so prior to the June 30th. We issued an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide to you. And we received, it says good, but great cooperation from management and working with the team. And really in the transition, from Brian to a whole new team to Mary's team, it went very smooth. So we're happy to report that. So our responsibilities were laid out in the beginning of the engagement, and our audit was performed as previously communicated, so we didn't make any changes as a result of that plan. So no changes. Our strategy we still identified the significant risks within your audit, and we'll walk through the results of that audit. So the significant risk areas that were identified as part of your financial statement audit is management override of controls. And so we have our testing approach where we incorporate unpredictability, we test your journal entries, looking for proper approval, and happy to report that the procedures identified were sufficient and no findings as a result of that test. In addition, improper revenue recognition, we test, and that's over your grant revenues, and they're listed there. And again, that testing, we go back to documentation to make sure it's recorded in the proper period for the right amounts, and no findings as a result of that test. As far as your internal control matters, we do gain an understanding of your internal controls. We don't issue an opinion on them. However, we do, when we identify something, we are required to communicate that to this committee. So we identified 2 internal control matters. One relates to audit reconciliations and audit adjustments. They are included within your packet. These are journal entries that we came across during the conduct of our audit. They were recorded by management, and we're just recommending there that now that you have that process in place, you know those journal entries are part of the audit process or part of the reconciliation process, incorporating them into your year-end procedures. And the second comment relates to custodial funds, and they are done manually, so we would recommend in that area, again, to get them onto your computer system, all those different funds, and that way the fund activity will be recorded electronically on a monthly basis to the general ledger. So as far as accounting policies, you did have there was a new accounting policy under the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it relates to subscription-based information technology arrangements. And so these are typically your software contracts that you have. For Luzerne County, they were not material, so therefore they did not need to be recorded as a lease, almost like where you put a right to use asset and a corresponding liability. So there was no effect on your financial statements as a result of those adoption of that accounting policy. As far as estimates, these are the areas that require judgment. We focus on those significant estimates. They are listed here. They are very tiny for me to see. But as far as our understanding of those estimates, we deem them all to be reasonable in relationship to your financial statements. So, just taking one example, we look at, accrued compensated absences. What is the basis for that? What is the rates that are used, the number of employees within there, testing it to make sure that that liability is properly recorded. No unusual transactions, no difficulties, no disagreements. There was no departures on our standard audit report, no consultations outside of with other outside accounting firms, and no other audit findings or issues as a result of our audit. We're also required to report to you if there are any uncorrected and corrected misstatements. Mentioned earlier, there were corrected misstatements. They are attached to your packet. You can see those. There was one uncorrected misstatement, and it really was just a timing issue. It was recorded in the wrong period. So that was passed on, and it clears itself out into the next year. So no impact, though, on the general fund or your financial statements. Very little impact. No non-compliance with laws, regulations, and as our discussions regarding fraud, nothing was identified. We're also required to assess going concern, so we look a year out from the financial statement date to determine whether the county has the ability to meet and pay all their bills and collect taxes, and that, again, no issues relating to going concern. As far as a group audit, as you know, within the financial statements, You have many different entities that are audited by what we refer to as component auditors, and we gather all of that information and incorporate it into your financial statements. We did that again this year, and we got cooperation from all of them to put those numbers within your financial statements. And we are assess independence each year. We are independent regards to Luzerne County, no related parties, matters noted, or other matters to report. So it was really it's the best report that I could probably give as a result of our audit process. And so I'll turn it over to, unless there's any questions regarding that report, I'll turn it over to Adam, and he'll walk you through the audit results.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I probably have to pull this up a little bit, don't I? So that's my joke for the day. I heard that I'm the funny one. I'm not sure where that came from, other than the way I look. I don't know what I said, so we'll just go with it. So as Andrea mentioned, I'm here to really present usually the dry information, which is the numbers. So I will attempt to make it a little bit more informative and interactive. Certainly, if there's questions on something that I say as I go through, feel free to stop me while we're on that slide. So the county's financial statements are comprised of a lot of different moving parts. The one piece, and what most governments focus on, is your general fund. General fund being where the majority of the activity that the county directly controls. So that would be real estate taxes and kind of the general county operations. That's where all of that gets housed. Like I said, there's a lot of other parts that flow into it as well that are outside of the general fund that are, to a lot of extents, just as important. But those are more specific in focus, more specific in the nature that they're there, where it could be something related to just an individual grant or an individual activity where you're predominantly getting money from outside the county to fund that operation. The majority of my comments here over the next couple of minutes will focus on the general fund, which again are the things that the county, this body, kind of directly controls through the budget and through the ongoing activities. So as we look at it in summary form, the county had a good year. You added about $1.6 million to your overall reserves, so your bottom line, or what we call your fund balance. Fund balance essentially being equivalent to the equity in the county at any one point in time. These numbers are as of a point in time. They're as of that December 31st, 2023. If we would look at them at any point else through the year, the numbers would most likely and would be different than what we're looking at this point in time. So how we get to the $1.6 million surplus is from a revenue standpoint, you brought in, general fund, you brought in about $144 million. You spent $106 million on regular activities. And then you also had what we call these other financing sources and uses. Those are things that are coming into and out of the general fund, but they aren't core operating activities. One of the biggest pieces that's in that other financing use is in your real estate taxes, you're collecting money that you're using to pay your debt service. Debt service sits in a separate fund. It's where you don't pay it out of the general fund. So you moved about $26.6 million of real estate taxes that you collected and recorded in the general fund to the debt service fund to make your principal and interest payments. And that shows kind of below the line in that other financing sources and uses. Okay. And so at the end of December 31st, 2023, the county had about $28.8 million in your general fund balance. We'll look in a couple of minutes at where that stacks up and why that's important, but that's a robust, healthy fund balance for the county. As we get into and start looking at the detail from a revenue standpoint, again, I mentioned your revenues came in at $144 million. You budgeted about $145.8 million. So from a budgetary perspective, you were down about $1.6 million, where you anticipated you were going to collect about $1.6 million more than you ended up collecting. And really, where that flushed out was in the real estate tax side. There's two pieces to real estate taxes. You have your current year assessment. What do you assess in the current year for that year? On that, you collected 99.7% of what you budgeted. So what that tells me is you did a really good job in anticipating what were you going to collect in the year that the taxes were assessed. The other piece that goes into that is the delinquents. So we all know that most people pay their real estate taxes in the year that they're assessed. Not everybody does. Those that don't pay in a future subsequent period. Over the last couple of years with COVID and extensions and stimulus money coming out, we've seen the delinquent collections across the board, not just in Luzerne County, had increased over the last couple of years. Well, as that money dries up, as people get caught back up on getting more timely, the delinquent collections is where we saw that kind of budget to actual deficit come into play. In that you looked at your history of the delinquent real estate taxes and you increased the budget for 2023, and the actual collections actually went the other direction. Again, you collected 99.7% of what you assessed, so that's a really good, really strong number. So from a kind of activity standpoint, I don't see any issues there, but that's what's leading to that $1.8 million difference between budget and actual is the delinquent collections. The rest of the revenues were really close to in line with what you budgeted and what you actually brought in. Okay. As we turn the page and look at the expenditure side of things, so this is more so where did the money go? Here, like I said, revenues came in less than budget. Your expenditures also came in less than budget. So you held the line on spending. Some of that was you had budgeted more for salaries and benefits than you actually ended up paying out. And again, that's kind of a systemic thing that we're seeing across the board, not just in governments, across the board in a lot of organizations is where do you find the people to hire? And so seeing those numbers the way they are does not surprise us and comes in line across the board with other entities that we look at. For 2023, you budgeted about $110.3 million in expenditures. You actually paid out about $106.4 million. So your expenditures were about $3.9 million less than what you had budgeted. Again, the lion's share of it there as we look at the judicial and the corrections line, the bulk of those differences where I'd call them savings, but I don't know that they're really savings. It's just where you had some pieces that you had positions that you intended to fill and didn't, or you were kind of replacing more experienced people with less experienced people at lower pay rates. That's really where the bulk of that difference came in for judicial and corrections is in those wages and benefits. Okay. And then as we look at the other financing sources and uses, and this is where I referenced earlier the transfer out for debt service, you were basically right in line with what you anticipated paying out in principal and interest. So as we kind of put it all in the blender and it all shakes out, that gets us to the $1.6 million surplus in that your revenues, the money you brought in, exceeded the expenditures, the money that went out. Okay. Questions on general fund budget to actual or activities?
So I apologize, just one kind of question / comment. So just to reiterate that the surplus that we had of about $1.6 million is related mostly to the fact that we have unfilled positions in the county.
It's a combination of unfilled positions, and what you budgeted in salaries benefits,
right? Yeah.
Being less than what you actually expended.
Sure. There's this small sect of people that believes that when we have this surplus every year, that it somehow means something that it really doesn't mean. And I just want to make sure that it's reiterated and reinforced to the public that this surplus is coming basically from our unfilled positions, and that's where it is, and in fact it's kind of neither a good thing nor a bad thing. Obviously it's better that we're not spending more money than we budget, but at the same time it's we need to fill these positions at some point, and that's really the reason why we continue to have this money left over every year.
Right. Yeah, and your budget, the budget that you adopted for 2023 was what I'll call a balanced budget, in that your revenues equaled your expenditures. So you accounted for, you said, here's what we think we're going to bring in, and then you really accounted for, here's where we think it's going to go out. And so with the expenditures being less, it means that you didn't incur all of the expenditures that you anticipated. It's not that you're saying, hey, we we're charging more in real estate taxes than we needed. It's your budget was balanced, your budget is the plan, and activities don't always necessarily always equal what you plan at the beginning of the year.
Thank you.
Okay. So as we move over and talk about the general fund balance, and fund balance, it's a kind of an elusive concept, and it's one that has a lot of different takes depending on who you talk to. There's really two schools of thought with fund balance. One thought is, if you have, as a government, if you have $1 of fund balance, you've charged too much in real estate taxes. That's one school of thought. And there's ramifications and there's issues with being at a zero fund balance. I mean, two of the biggest pieces to say why would you need a fund balance? One is your revenues don't always come in every day in an equal amount. Your biggest revenue line item, your real estate taxes, you don't collect any real estate taxes in January, February into March. And then you start collecting in March, April, May, June, through the rest of your tax calendar. Well, if you have no fund balance, now you've got to go out and borrow to have cash on hand to meet your payroll, your operating costs, because those are being incurred and you're paying those every day of the year. And the other reason to have a robust fund balance is you have debt that's out in the public market. We'll look at what you have out there in a minute. With debt being in the public market, your bonds get rated. There's rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, Fitch, Moody's, that are constantly looking at your financial information and assigning a rating to the county. What's your investment grade rating? What is that? One of the key metrics in having that rating is how are you doing in managing your budget, and how are you doing to provide for a rainy day? Or said another way, what's your fund balance? If you're at a zero fund balance, when they come in and look at a rating, they're not going to have a very favorable take on the county. So you need to have some level of a fund balance there to provide for ongoing costs and to make sure that you're solvent and able to continue to operate. In governments, there's an organization known as the Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA. And many years ago, they came out with a recommendation that said that a government should have, and it varies depending on the government, but generally speaking, a government should have in their fund balance 2 months of a typical operating budget. And that's kind of to provide that rainy day money to carry you over where real estate taxes don't come in. Another common example we see is the state budget. You get a fair amount of money through the Commonwealth. Well, how many times does the Commonwealth not pass their budget on time? When they don't pass the budget on time, that impacts how much money you get and when you get it. So that's what that 2 months of operating budget is intended to cover, is that provide funds to continue to operate throughout the year. As we look at it, 2 months of your general fund operation is about $24.3 million. Okay, so that would, if we were saying we want 2 months in it to meet with that, that's about $24.3 million. So as we look forward, at December 31st, 2023, you were at 28.8. 24.3, 28.8. You're in good shape from an overall fund balance standpoint. Now, there's different categories of fund balance, and it's all dependent on what is the level of constraint available or on those funds. So not every dollar that's in your fund balance is readily available to use to pay today's expenditures or tomorrow's expenditures. In that number, there may be some grant money or some money that somebody came in from an external source where they said, we're going to give you this money, but you have to use it for X, Y, and Z purpose. That fits into a restricted account fund balance category that you can't use to pay anything other than what that agreement says you can use it for. So what we really look at then is we compare to your unassigned balance, unassigned being the amount that's generally available for you to use to pay your ongoing expenditures. Your unassigned fund balance was about $24.4 million. So you're, from an unassigned standpoint, you're right there at where the GFOA would recommend using their 2 months of a typical operating budget. So Now, does that mean that you can't go out and say, hey, next year, we're going to anticipate that we're going to have this project, that we may get some funding in 2026 to cover? And so in the interim, we're going to plan to use some of our fund balance to kind of bridge that gap. Absolutely, that's what your fund balance is there for. When you do that, what you have to be careful of is to make sure that you have some kind of a plan in place to replenish, to get to that threshold where you want to be, assuming it's the 2-month, to get back to that point in time. Okay, and again, that's what your fund balance is intended to be. It's there to give you the ability to not make knee-jerk reactions when things don't play out the way you anticipate them playing out. Okay, questions on fund balance? Okay. Yep. So as we look at the county as a whole, and there's a number of slides on here, but county as a whole is all-inclusive. It includes all of the activities. Your total assets at December 31st, 2023 were about $410 million. That's down about $42 million from where you were at December 31st, 2022. And the big reason for that is the American Rescue Plan. The county's, I believe the county's allocation was about $112 million in total. You had all of that money in hand as of December 31st, 2022. In 2023, you spent about $43 million of that money as you pushed it out to program it. That's the big reason why we're seeing the assets come down. We're also seeing the liabilities, what you owe out to others, come down primarily because of that as well. So all in all, again, you had a really good year. There's some other slides kind of going back through here, which I can cover, but they're important to understand, but they're not a whole lot there to really talk through. There's a slide on long-term debt and shows you how much do you need to set aside over the next number of years to meet your obligations under your agreements. There's a slide in there on the net pension liability and the other post-employment benefit liability. Those two are both estimates. There's specialists involved in making calculations related to both of those. And neither of those two numbers are something that you're going to have to write a check tomorrow to pay. They go out in 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years where you'll pay them in small increments over time. But under the accounting standards, because the employees are earning those benefits as they go through and work, we need to recognize that component of the liability in each year's financial statements equivalent to what they're earning in that year. Okay. So that's the short of the financial information. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. And I was joking with your security guy. He said, "How long are you going to be?" I said, "Well, at least 3 hours." And he threatened to throw me out of the room. But certainly there's a lot of information in the financial statements. To do it justice would take probably about 3 hours. This was purely an executive summary of the highlights of what we felt was important for this body to understand.
Can I just ask a question? What's the difference between the unassigned fund balance and the total fund balance? Do you have one fund, one not fund? Is that the?
Turn your mic down.
What was the difference between the total fund balance and the unassigned fund balance? There's two different funds, is that what it is? And
it really comes back to what's the ability of the county to directly access the money to use it for whatever you want to use it for. The unassigned is available for general use. The difference between the 24.8 and the 28 that's in there is really money that has some, and it's something that either county council has said, we're going to earmark that money for this purpose, or it's somebody external to the county that says, here's money, only use it for XYZ purpose. So it's all still part of the fund balance total. It's just how readily available is it for you to use for whatever you want to use it for.
okay, so we really only worry about really the total fund balance, and the unassigned is really what you're saying, XYZ.
Well, the unassigned is a piece that you control, and it's one component of the total.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Mr. Thornton?
Yes, I chair the audit committee here at the county. It's my third year on the committee, but I'd like to thank the committee members, Mr. Perry, Mr. Wilovich, Mr. Sabatino, on the committee also. Did a great job this year. I want to also throw a big shout out to Mary Roselle and Caitlin Holland, who are in the audience. They have budget and finance. Ms. Roselle heads up budget and finance, and she and Caitlin are the key components that Baker Tilly relies on for all of this information, which unsurprisingly is not always readily forthcoming. So they did a great job in getting the information in a timely manner, and the audit was completed before June 30th, which, for edification of everybody here, in our charter, our audit must be completed by June 30th every year by charter. If we go past that, it's a violation. Also, another rule in the charter is that our outside auditor, for auditing firm, could only serve for 4 consecutive years and then must step aside. So this Baker Tilly audit for last year, 2023, was the final of 4 years. And I'd like to really thank them, Andrea and Adam here, and your whole staff back at the fort, for a job very well done, very professional, very informative. You break it down so even us commoners could understand. And fortunately for all of us, it's great news this year. I have to say also that I'm only here, this is my third year, but Mr. Perry could attest to this. He's been here a lot longer. This was probably the smoothest audit I've witnessed, and maybe Mr. Perry has witnessed in the past. It's never gone this well. So go ahead.
Absolutely. It was smooth right from Mary Roselle took over all the way through, and they did a great job, and Adam and his team are just the best, and we'll miss you. Maybe we'll catch up down the line. I don't know if I'll be here, but it was a great job. Absolutely professional, right from the beginning till the end. Fabulous job.
I could, if I could, Mr. Chair. I don't know if Mr. Thornton's
Yeah.
done or not.
Go ahead.
Are you done?
Yeah, he just had
Go
one
ahead,
more
I'm
comment.
One
sorry.
last point I wanted to make. If you noticed in the presentation, our county expenditures ended up being almost $4 million less than budgeted. That's a great number. That's expenditures were less than what we expected. And I'd like to, overall, the responsibility lies with the county manager, Ms. Crocamo, and I think she's done a wonderful job in managing the departments, the divisions, and don't forget last year, she sent out letters to all the departments and divisions requesting 0% increase in their budgets for this year that we're in now. And she succeeded with all of her people that work in the county here. They managed to do that. And the county council passed a budget last fall for this year, 2024, with a 0% tax increase. And I'd like to give credit to Manager Crocamo and her team for doing that. So thank you, everybody, and that concludes my comments.
Mr. Haas?
Yeah, I could. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to piggyback on what Councilman Thornton just said, I remember in 2012, 2013, where there was a 4 in front of our long-term debt service page. Adam, I know you remember those not wonderful days, and Andrea as well. And this was always like nails on a chalkboard this time, because hats off to all of you and our staff too, Manager Crocamo. This is really refreshing for somebody who was there at the ground floor home rule, and just really refreshing. So thank you.
Any other council members, comments?
I think we have a grade A bond rating, don't we now? I mean,
Yes.
that's unprecedented
Yes.
too in modern history. So
Yeah, recently.
I
that was
remember we
upgraded.
couldn't get one not too many years ago, so that was another thing. But forgive me, Mr. Chair.
No, that's okay. So much of this is related to that. You know, we really are in such better financial footing. It's, very much thanks to the work of county council, not, spending outside of our means over the last few years. And, we see the light at the end of the tunnel here as far as our debt obligations are concerned. And our county manager, budget and finance office, and every department, every division has really worked hard to make sure that that's happened. So Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Hartzell.
And I would like to thank Andrea and Adam. Numbers really aren't my forte, and they have to walk me through, and they have. But they've just been an absolute pleasure to deal with, professional, responsive, and assisting and guiding us. And I really enjoyed working with you and your group. And yes, the kudos really need to go to Mary Roselle and Caitlin Holland. They're the leaders when it comes to budget and finance. They are responsive to departments with their needs and really give us really good guidance on how we should proceed. But this is really a collaborative effort. And a lot of it has to, actually, the successes have to be given to county council. Over the years, they have stuck with reducing our debt service. It's very difficult. We've been through difficult times. Council has been steadfast in doing that. And this particular council, I can tell you, is just a pleasure to work with, and that's how we're going to get things done. I also want to thank our controller. He's been very helpful, and his staff has been very cooperative and very helpful to everything that we're doing. So we're absolutely headed in the right direction, and I firmly and absolutely believe that the reason why is because we're working together, and we're using our collective experience and intelligence to do what's right for Luzerne County. And I'm very, very, very happy to be a part of it. So thank you, Baker Tilly. Hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you very much. Miss Smith.
Thank you to Manager Ramilda Crocomo. Thank you to the division heads. Thank you for the council. Thank you to Baker Tilly. This is really great. And I think they all deserve a round of applause, especially the division heads and the county manager.
Once again, thank you very much. No, you're good. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Okay.
You have to stay to the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
We'll watch on TV.
Yeah, watch TV out the lobby.
All right, number 2, discussion regarding the Butler Township subdivision.
This matter actually originated and was spearheaded by Councilwoman McDermott and the previous county manager. We're at a juncture now that we need to have input and council's direction on how to go forward. So we have Banesh, a representative from our engineering firm that's working on this, to discuss the proposed development.
Do we have the presentation? One second.
I'm sorry, what is your name, sir?
I'm sorry, I'm Chris Benz.
Chris.
I'm a civil group manager from Benish Consulting Engineers.
Oh, okay. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight.
There we go.
All right, we'll skip by that one. Again, thank you, Council, for having me explain the work that we've done for you so far to date. As you know, probably some of this may be repetitive for some of you, but I'd like to make sure I'm being thorough. We were hired to do a property survey of approximately 537 the county owns in Butler Township surrounding the Kingston Work Camp or Keystone Job Corps, some of the familiar names. It was under one parcel, but it was actually 7 different deeds. So maybe at that scale, it's a little difficult to see, but the blue exterior boundary is your existing exterior boundary of the 536 acres. The red lines are the 7 deeds of the existing deeds, and then the 2 yellow lines are the existing leases. One is for the youth music camp, and the other one is for the Keystone Job Corps. The youth camp is about 17 acres, and the Keystone Job Corps is about 122 acres. When you're looking at this, you'll notice that the subdivision or the property itself is kind of naturally divided. On the upper northern section, it is divided by Middle Road, which kind of creates a little bit of a natural subdivision. As you go down toward the middle, just underneath the Keystone Job Corps, it's West Foothills Drive. And then below the lowest section is actually 309 or 100 Way and or the old Turnpike. So what we have done is we've located all of those property boundaries, we've done all the research, and we've done all the calculations. So we feel good about where the existing boundary lines are for your 536 acres. Next, we looked at, in discussions with county representatives, we tried to come up with reviewing the Butler Township ordinance and their requirements and the way the land lays out, what would be the best opportunity for you to subdivide it without putting in the least amount of improvements or any kind of money and keep your costs as low as possible. What we've come up with then is, if you look now, the upper north section, as I said, is kind of a natural subdivision. So keeping the existing Lot 1B for the lease area would become permanent, and that would actually be a parcel still owned by the county, but it would be subdivided out and given a new parcel number. And then we created two lots, one of approximately 35 acres and one of about 40 acres that could be sold off. Keep in mind, these numbers are approximate. When we make a decision, we'll get them to the nearest hundredth. Engineers like to put that on the plans, but we didn't get there quite yet.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
Especially for my aging eyes, this is like really, really hard to read.
Yes.
So when you say that plot 1A or 2A, could you describe it more fully in a maybe color code or?
Sure, I'm sorry. It's the orange northernmost. The left is 1A, the middle is 1B, and that is the music center, and then to the right is 1C. So it's three. I don't know if, does this have a pointer on it? Yeah. I guess it does, but you can't see it on the screen. So it's the uppermost orange section.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, yes, very much. Thank you.
And I'm a fast talker, so please, I just get excited when I do my job, so please interrupt if there's you have a question. The middle section, the green, is the middle section. So the unique part about that, I'm going to start left. The furthest most left, there's a small lot. It's an existing natural subdivision. The Little Nescapec Creek flows through there, and also the Jetto Tunnel, which is an AMD tunnel. That's a small 1 acre. It's that case now, so we're just going to leave it that way. Offered for sale. You may have to keep it as part of 2A.
Are you talking about the solid green or the striped green?
I'm talking about all the green. The striped green is, I broke it into different striping so that you can see there's actually 5 individual lots that we're doing in green. The one in the middle is 2C, and that's approximately 120 acres. That's the existing Keystone Job Corps. We're going to keep that. And then on the left-hand side, we have a 2B, which that's the furthest left, smaller sort of box.
Oh, yeah.
That has access through an old alley, so that will probably be able to be subdivided off on its own. 2A is everything basically from the left side of the property that's not owned by Keystone Job Corps. There's some swamp in there, there's some wetlands in there, it's more of a wooded area. And then what's left to the right, on the far right, is 2D. That's more the agricultural farms. That's about 120 acres. That would be its own lot. The only added lot that makes part of this is the county has a maintenance facility under Lot 2E that for about 2 acres that we would clean up so that you could.
Could you slow down a little bit? Because I'm trying to make notes. You said 2D is agricultural currently?
Yes.
And would you say something about that?
It's about 120 acres.
Okay. And did you say something else about that area?
Not about Lot 2D.
Okay.
2A is more wooded with some swamp and some streams, et cetera, on it, and a little bit of the AMD treatment, probably.
See, you're moving very fast, very quickly.
Okay, I'll slow down. 2E is the county maintenance facility, salt shed, et cetera. That's approximately 2 acres. Okay. And the 2B was the furthest left section, and that would be the residential area. existing residential area, so it's near that. Can I move on from green? Okay. South of Foothills Drive is the red. Okay. On that is, right now, there's 4 lots proposed. Okay. Butler Township actually has a lot there that's closest to Foothills and not red at all. That's their existing lot. They have an easement and another building for access to that building, but they don't actually own the building. We're proposing a 2-acre lot as 3B just to adjoin to that property for them because their building's on it so that it's not
Mr.
encroaching.
Bench, are you referring to the gray area now, the little square gray rectangles?
One of them, yes. And then right next to it is the red with the little lines that I'm sure you can't see in an 8.5 by 11.
Well, I see one gray solid rectangle, and then to the left of it, I see a gray rectangle with vertical red stripes.
Correct. Yes, the one on the right is an existing lot that's owned by Butler Township.
Oh.
And then the one on the left of it would be a proposed lot.
Thank you.
Sure. The balance of the area between Foothills Drive, the red lines that are going across, and then the other line is 309. That is a wooded area. That would remain as Lot 3A. That's approximately 57 acres. And I did send this all as a PDF, so you could blow that up if you'd like, make it bigger. Apologize, I didn't realize that the screen would be so small.
I have a question about one of the things that Mr. Thornton commented on before with Lot 3B and then that other gray area to the right of it. It looks like there are structures on that land. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yes, the one on the right is an existing, I believe it was a recycling center, but I think it's not being used now.
Okay.
That's owned by Butler Township. That is their lot that was purchased or turned over at some point. The one on the left side of it is another building that's theirs used, and they have an access easement to get to it, but they don't own the property. So we're suggesting it makes sense to give them that sell that
Understood.
property or do whatever you decide to do.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so, and then the rest of that, this is also a fairly steep area, and it's all wooded, whereas the other areas are a little more, the relief isn't quite as steep. Below that, then, is a leftover parcel that is also steep and wooded. That's Lot 3D. It's about 9 acres. That's below the gray line on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side is an extremely small, just residue parcel that's left over from what you originally owned, and that's 0.2 acres. May not be useful to somebody. If not, then you would just keep it as part of Lot 3A.
So, Mr. Bench, so if I'm hearing you correctly, the section, the lot that's at the bottommost of this overall diagram has vertical red stripes in it.
Correct.
What is that again? Is that a steep wooded area?
It's a little bit steeper, yes.
Okay, and that's 3 what?
That's 3D, and that's about 9 acres.
3D as in dog?
Yes, D as in dog.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilman Haas.
Ms. Benson, thank you for this. Is a wonderful report. This paints a picture, and we've talked about this in years past. And I don't know if anybody can. I don't think it's a question for you, sir, but where did this whole concept of developing this parcel come from? I don't know if familiar. You can come. Was it Manager Pedri? I thought didn't he bring that up years ago?
It really took off under Manager Robertson and Councilwoman McDermott.
That they thought this was a way to make money, essentially?
That's what I was told.
Yeah, because I remember Manager Pedri talking about the agricultural land there. That makes a lot of sense to me, that that was being used, latently. Obviously, it's yielding a little bit of money, but not much.
We had leases with farmers, and then we entered into the lease with the music camp. That's what I was involved in when I was a chief county solicitor with these parcels.
I just want to know. I hope we can have the discussion. We're not planning on moving this, are we, Mr. Chairman? Not to the next meeting.
No, not immediately.
Just some very global questions I have about this is that how does Butler Township really feel about this, and some of the adjoiners here, but just in South Mountain, we know South County has explosive growth, all right, in Butler and Hazle Township. And I look at this and I really enjoy the green space. I'm looking at here from on my Google Maps, and this property is right above the mountain ridge there. It's just north of it. And we've all been down 181 where it swings north and goes that way, and you look out and you see this beautiful green land. And I just want to know if we could, as we go forward on this, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm suggesting this to you and everybody, that we could get more input from all the stakeholders too. And
I think that's pretty much what the purpose of this, putting this on the agenda for the work session was, to start that conversation. And we know that there is a lot of conversation going on about this.
Right, and I believe there are some residents here. We're at a juncture now, I believe we expended already over $100,000. But we're at a juncture now where we're going to have to invest more money. And the reason why I suggested that we bring this before council is, to be honest, I don't want to expend monies if council is not supportive of the project. So we have to vet the project, and you're absolutely, you're on point. We have to listen to the residents, and then we have the development issue and any kind of monies. But before I approve another dime, I want council's input on how we're going to move forward on this. And this is the time to do this.
Let Mr. Sabatino would like to speak first, then Councilwoman McDermott, and then Mr. Thornton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I think I can answer some of your concerns, Harry, because since this agenda came out on Friday, I've been pleasantly surprised at how many people stopped by to tell me how against this they are. And I, as a stakeholder and a Butler Township resident, am against it as well. I think we have a golden opportunity here to develop that Furwood Music Camp into something bigger. Maybe use Act 13 money to build a little amphitheater there and let the students, instead of having 1 2-week period in the summer, we can put some more investment into this and make it a camp that goes throughout the whole summer. Right now, school districts are having trouble getting music teachers in and paying for arts and music programming. This is a golden opportunity for us to invest in it. And I think using the Act 13 money that we get every year to put a little bit of investment into this will go a long way. And there are a lot of farmers who use this land right now. And yes, we should probably renegotiate their contracts to get a tiny bit more out of them. But I think selling this land to developers is going to hurt those farmers. I mean, if you're looking at the parcels, the yellow parcels at the top, where the music camp is, that's 2 pieces of farmland that would be gone. The red, most of the red on the like the bottom end of it is just basically a hill. You're coming down 309 into Butler Township. The green area around the Job Corps is all farm, like to the right of the
20
Job
acres,
Corps.
they said there.
It's all farmland that's being used right now. I think it's a detriment if we sell this land to be developed. We're hurting the farmers and we're hurting these students that go to the music camp. We should be investing in that yellow area and making it more of a recreation area. People in Butler know that when I ran for supervisor in 2019, this is exactly the type of project that I wanted to do. Making more recreation space, making it an attractive place for people to come. And now at the county level, we have a golden opportunity to make an impact in the southern end of the county. So I'm totally against spending another dime of county money to subdivide it, because we'd have to bring those deeds that are out there together into one piece and subdivide them again. And I speak for my residents of Butler Township too.
That's what I talked to some people as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr.
No,
Chair.
that's okay. I just wanted I know Ms. McDermott has some comments to make. Go ahead, Ms. McDermott.
Okay, so yes, I've been working on this since I was elected in 2020. And those farmlands were a handshake deal that goes way back. We don't have any written agreements on that, but that's one thing. That farmland is agricultural. It will remain green. That's that. The orange space up above, we are going to keep the we will keep the Fernwood Music Camp and we could still lease that to them. Those other 2 parcels, I know they may be interested in purchasing them, but it's all a matter of, again, what the price is and what it could go for, if they could afford it. I'm not sure. The Job Corps, we do have a lease with the state, so that's going to stay that way. And you saw the breakdown of it. Honestly, there's not a lot of it that could be buildable. But what is buildable, Butler Township has been involved in this, and I know Jennifer Cora can fill you in. But this has to obviously go past them before before the county can do anything. Their engineer has to look at it and then give recommendations to the Butler Township supervisors, which I have been in contact with over the past year, several years, talking about this. They are aware of what's going on. Again, they have the final say on if this will go or not. But they know, and it's 3/4 of an acre that they would have to build on. So they changed their zoning that there would not be any townhomes or even condos that would be built there, because that happened in another part of Butler Township. So they already changed their zoning. Again, they're aware of it. Of course, nobody wants anything in their backyard, but if you're talking about putting a couple beautiful homes on several acres of land to increase their tax income as well as the county's, then I don't see that anyone should really be upset about that if they're big, beautiful homes that are going to go on at least 3/4 of an acre. And then, of course, the other land that could be sold, the farmlands, will remain agricultural. Again, all that zoning is done.
Mr. Thornton?
What other? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I learned an awful lot tonight. Thank you for everybody's input. And I'm looking at the map now. Of course, the Keystone Job Corps is going to remain there. Nothing's happening with that. The red striped zone at the bottom of the diagram is steep, mountainous, and pretty much undevelopable, if that's a word. And I agree with Mr. Sabatino that that music camp should stay there. And I think it's a wonderful thing to have going on there. And I agree with him that if we could help expand that or make it better, more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks a year, I think we need to look into that. And maybe it needs to expand over into Zone 1A or 1C. I don't know. But as far as developing the property, that's a very loose term, general term. I don't know what extent of development we're considering here. I'm not in favor of developing any land. As a government body,
We are not developing.
I'm just,
Someone
if
would
I
have
could
to
just,
purchase
All right,
that property.
Ms.
I just-
McDermott, let Mr.
I just
Thornton
want to finish,
please.
because nobody's really explained all this to me in detail. If we want to sell what's left as a whole without spending another dime, I agree with Ms. Crocamo. I'm willing to go along with that as long as we don't spend more monies on the property. We spent $100,000 already. But I think the agricultural land, as Ms. McDermott said, will remain agricultural land, and the farmers could keep farming it. We need food, and the music camp should continue indefinitely, in my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Lescavage?
So I agree with Mr. Sabatino. I would like to see the majority of this land stay put with the intent that it was intended to be in the beginning. As far as any county property going forward, I've been saying this since I've been on the real estate committee. I think what should happen with any land, anything that's buildable, a lot that the county owns that puts for sale, it should go through the MLS, and may the highest bidder be awarded that land. That's what should happen with land in this county. The past manager had this great idea that we would contact an adjacent landowner and give them first opportunity. That's a bad idea. That should never happen. So what I would like to see is us not spend one more dollar. I'm not in favor of developing any land as far as the county goes. And when we pull this land out of what's totally available, I think the cost for infrastructure, water lines, sewers, curbing, streets, pavements, I think the amount of lots versus what the payback would be, I think would put this whole thing to bed. But I would be in favor of just leaving it alone.
Chair,
Ms.
okay,
Ms.
I
McDermott?
have some comments about that. Okay, first of all, it would be great to list it with a realtor. We cannot sell anything without it being subdivided. And as far as the cost of what we could achieve from this, again, $100,000 is a lot of money to subdivide it. But you're talking about lots that are going for, in Butler Township, less than an acre, well over $20,000. So for the land that we could sell, and some of it, if it can't be developed, adjacent property owners do want to buy it. Hey, I want that. That's, my backyard. And that's what we always come down to with a lot of the county land. Maybe it's not developable, as Mr. Thornton said, but if the person next door says, well, it's right next door to me, I want to keep it, they can purchase it and preserve it the way that they want to. Again, the gentleman from Dinesh said that, there's not a lot that's really developable, but I can't say it now, but to build properties on. There's that one section that may be able to. And part of the Lot 1C, the orange section, along the road there, they can put some homes along there. Now, we are, and again, I heard this said twice, we are not developing anything. We talked about doing that before, but the county doesn't have the resources to be able to do that, to put water lines, sewer lines, or anything like that in. That's why if the land is offered for sale, if a developer wants to come in and purchase it, they can go ahead and do that. But we are not doing that at all. All we want to do is just sell off the larger parcels. If someone wants to purchase them, that's wonderful. Right now, we're not getting any tax dollars on it. Again, the supervisors are aware of it. They like this plan because we did have the other plan before. But of course, no vote was taken or anything like that on it. It's just that they are aware of this and they feel that this is workable. Not a lot of houses can go on there, again, because of the size of the lot that has to be for a home to be built on. But it's just sitting there. We're not making any money off of it. The Fernwood Music Camp, again, will remain. We will lease that to them. If it's something that council wants to talk about, we could talk about adding more acreage around there. But again, that all has to be, it would have to be added into the subdivision map. And that's where we're at with this. Again, it took that long because of all the different deeds and everything. And I'm sure, most of you are aware of any of the county problems, or most of the county properties that we do own have problems with them. So even to, clean up the titles, clean up the deeds, put this all together, have everything done properly is, I think, beneficial. And again, yes, we did spend $100,000, but the potential of selling this land is well over $1 million. We have Ms. Lawrence put out it was sent in our email, but I believe she printed it out for everyone that you could look at the comps. And these are all from the comparable sales, all from this year, 2024. And again, anything in Butler Township, there's no big acreage there, but they're all well over $20,000. And if you look at the rest of the parcels, there's 13 altogether. And the average of them would be 5,000. But if you wanted to go on the low end, you could say 3,000 per acre. That just gives you an idea of what we can make. Now, the problem is, and what, again, I apologize, but it's Chris, would have to say is how much more money. I don't know how much more money they're asking, to be able to complete this survey. But, of course, subdividing, surveying, all of this does take money. And that was in the 2023 budget, the engineering budget. It was on line item 550.18, and $100,000 of that did go to the survey. So Mr. Benz, would you be able to give us an idea of how much more we would need to be able to get to a point to even sell it? Because we're not there yet.
Sure. It somewhat depends on what council decides. If you went with exactly this plan, there's a little bit more legal descriptions than we originally estimated, just because number of lots went from 8 till 12. That was about $3,000. The one thing I can't know is you have to set pins when the lots are done. I didn't count up all the pins. We estimated 55. It's going to be a little more, so it'd be strictly for our guys to go out and set pins. Some of the comments I can't know is we did submit something to the county. to the township, but it was for basically trying to develop it to make it worth more money to whoever we want to give them an idea what you could do. Not a full development like with profiles and sewer and water, but just like a sketch concept plan. This plan, again, as was stated, we would think there would be no improvements. The township engineer could ask for, we know the Keystone Job Corps has, and there's some homes adjacent to it that have wells. When you typically have a 120-acre lot, they don't require you to do wells or on-lot sewage because you should be able to get that somewhere on the property, right? If you were going to do like a 2-acre lot, then they would. They can still ask for a few of those. I can't know that until we submit. So some of those costs I would not know. But again, we're keeping them big lots intentionally. Now, to just say whoever buys this, if they decide to go to the township and go with the development, they could be asked a lot more, but that was not our intent based on our discussions with the county. Then they would be responsible to put in curbs and sidewalks and whatever they plan to do. That's up to whoever buys the lot. At this time, it would just be these property lines as they are. Since there'd be no improvements, we don't believe there'd be an improvements agreement because we're not putting any improvements. Like I said, sometimes they would just maybe even ask, like, show us that a driveway can fit somewhere on this lot. So that you don't buy a lot and it winds up being landlocked. Some of those are the kind of requests that the township engineer can ask. I don't want to give you a number because I know it's going to be in your mind forever, but I don't think it's going to be like if we spend 100 now, it's not going to be more than 100. I think it's going to be probably closer to $50,000, and that's even probably high. If we get no comments, you're probably looking at $10,000 or $15,000 more dollars.
All right, Mr. Sabatino, you have comments?
Just a couple more. Once we sell this land, it could be rezoned. They can request to rezone it to be anything. They could take the agricultural aspect away and make it a residential. They could subdivide this 120-acre lot into 128, well, for the sake of argument, 121-acre pieces, and we'd lose all that farmland there. Once it's not in our control, we don't have any say in what goes on with it anymore. So I'd like everybody to think about that before we even think about spending another penny on this.
Mr. Sabatino, Butler Township has the final say. They will have the final say. We're not making any decisions on that. That's up to them to just, if a developer does come in, they have to give them the approval. Just like with our engineering plans, that's the recommendation to the supervisors, and then they get to vote on it.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Go ahead. Yeah, Mr. Sabatino.
I find it really hard to believe, knowing my supervisors, and far be it for me to speak for them, but I find it really hard to believe that they're willing to develop this land, knowing them and their personalities. I would imagine that they would probably side with the residents of Butler Township and myself on this, that they would not want to see this agriculture land and this space that we could make a recreation in our township go to a developer for more homes.
Mr. Sabatino, I did speak with them, and certainly, if you would like, I would have them either reach out to everyone, send an email, or however, just to say that thus far, they feel that this plan is a good way to go. Now, again, they didn't vote on anything. They did not. And I'm not saying that they are 100% for this, but they all, well, I should say two of them are pretty good with this plan. So, I mean, if that's a matter of a decision, obviously council should know that their opinions. They should know that.
I promise you, Ms. McDermott, that I will be
reach out.
taking this up with them.
Okay, Ms. Krishnowski and then Ms. Smith. Oh, and then Mr. Thorne, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I agree with you 100%, Mr. Sabatino. I cannot even begin to believe that you'd want to do this. Why can't we make that a bigger place for those kids? That's our future, for God's sakes. I can't understand why it's even an argument. Why can't we even make something that, like, even a more recreation to even encourage more people to go there and use that? It's baffling. That's all I could say. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Smith?
I agree with Councilman Sabatino, and from what I have been able to meet with them, I agree with his feelings about what the supervisors would say. And Councilwoman McDermott, you said that you would be happy to have them email us and that we would hear from them personally, and I would like to take you up on that. I believe we should hear from them personally.
Okay. Mr. Thornton, and then Mr. Haas.
Yeah, Mr. Benz, I imagine you'll be back here someday in the future. When you come back, something that's very, very important here is to do an overlay on this color-coded map here, the plan view. Do an overlay showing specifically which lots we're discussing that someone's proposing to sell off for development. I'd like to see the overlay on top of this color-coded map to see specifically where those lots are located, just so we're all on the same page with all of this.
Like those grade
just-
school science books?
Thank
Just
you.
to be, and I think I could answer that, like Lot 1B would be still owned by the county and would be leased. That's a music center. That's the center in the upper middle. Lot 2C is the center green in the middle. That would be maintained by the county. Everything else would be for sale. Well, 2 small lots, the 2 little gray lots, would go to Butler Township and the county, hypothetically. Everything else would be for sale. Now, there are different zoning districts. The green in the middle and the farmland was rezoned. It's rural agricultural, has a little bigger lot sizes, whereas the upper yellow is just rural suburban, which has a little smaller lot sizes, and the green on the bottom, I believe, is rural suburban too. But like slopes and stuff also play into that too. But once they're sold, as this gentleman said, Mr. Sabato said, it's up to the owner of the property.
Right. So again, it's a pretty easy task in the engineering department on computer. If you could just overlay specifically the areas so everybody has a clear view.
Sure.
Not everybody's an engineer like you.
I apologize. I have a larger scale map that I brought with me
Well,
because I
even
didn't know. You
even-
can have it. I think it'll be a little clearer.
Even at
a bigger
that, I mean,
size.
I understand what you're saying. The darker green area in the center is the Job Corps. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
staying there. And there's 2 tiny little gray blocks. Butler Township owns it. That's staying. Maybe the music camp is, I don't know. I mean, I want to see a map superimposed over the top of this. And I think that would help everybody here.
Yeah, I agree that some of this is even, being able to differentiate the lines and which direction they're going in. It's very difficult to read, whether it's blown up or, just on this small piece of paper. If there was a better way to delineate some of this, I think we might have a better idea of where each of these parcels are going to go and what they currently do. Mr.
Yeah,
Haas?
absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks again, Mr. Betts. I do appreciate this. We've had questions about this property before. I know Ms. Pecora helped me find exactly where it was on the map a few meetings ago. Going back, I hate to get historically, Mr. Chairman, but there was a time on this council where we were trying to find every nickel and dime in the cushions of the car seat and the living room furniture. And part of that was the real estate committee, where it was tasked, I think it was Ms. Wakes, Jane Wakes. She was a wonderful council member. I think she was the first chair of the property committee when we had this, I think, years ago. And we were looking at those scraps that perhaps we could yield some money, we could divest those properties and make some extra income. I don't think that's what's driving this discussion tonight. I don't think we're so cash strapped that we have to just get rid of this. All right, I think that would be very poor long-term vision to just do this. We just had a really wonderful audit report, pretty much the best one I think I've seen in the 12 years of home rule. And I think we're coalescing here about where we'd like to see this going. It doesn't look like we want to develop this just for the several people that spoke. But one of the most magical things about Luzerne County is that we kind of grew up early. We grew up there in the industrial years, and we have 4 major cities in our county, but we also have a lot of green space and a lot of this wonderful outdoor room for activity. And driving through here is a wonderful trip too. And I just think this is a great gem that we could keep, just like we kept the airport in 40 Fort. We got rid of 7 Tubs and Moon Lake. However, the state has done a banner job with the 7 Tubs, so I'm so impressed. I was there not terribly long, but it's just amazing. And I think we just need to keep on really, kind of like Mr. Sabatino was talking about, just really consider the long-term benefits of our assets that we have at this point. We don't have to sell. We don't have to rush into anything at this point. And that's a credit to all the stakeholders like we talked about before. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Ms. Crocomo, but if you're looking for a general direction, I think you might have it.
I would like it, and we will provide the zoning maps for council as well, so you'll know how it's zoned. And we'll give you the description of what can be done in those certain zoning areas.
Mr. Sabatino?
I would like to make a note that the Nescapeck Creek and the Jetto Tunnel are right in that area, and the creek itself gets tested like every 3 months for toxins in the water. That piece of land may not be developable anyway because of the runoff from the creek and the mine water that comes out of the Jetto Tunnel. So a beaver dam. Okay, so we're talking like you're going to get DEP involved in this. You're going to get everything under the sun is going to come and look at this, and we could just hold on to it. And like Mr. Haas said, we could hold on to it for the long term and look at what we can do to put something there that would actually benefit long term the residents of this county. And I think it would be short-sighted for us to sell this land to be developed for more housing at this point. Even though we need it, but we're not talking about affordable housing. We're talking about 3/4 acre lots and $1 million homes. So we need affordable housing at this point, not,
We've got a lot of brown space in our cities that's definitely not being used.
Exactly.
Mr. Liscavige?
I say we bring Angela Park back.
You'd have to call, yeah, I agree with you.
That.
I always said we should do tubing on the Nescapeck Creek, but, you know, we'll get there. I'll make it happen someday.
Any other council members?
They have the best pizza, I can tell you that.
I might date myself, but I used to go on Dollar Day.
They always made me sit on a bench as discipline or timeouts when I was there.
Anyone else? Any other council members? All right, thank you, Mr. Benz.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I was never taller than Bugs Bunny to go on the Dodgem cars.
All right, number 3, discussion regarding the resolution providing tax exemption for new construction in deteriorated areas under the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Act.
I am going to introduce the Dean of the Legal Community in Luzerne County and my friend, Attorney Conrad Favello.
Thank you, Romilda. I'm here tonight on behalf of Hillwood Properties. They're proposing to develop about 360 acres south of Hazleton on both the west and east sides of Route 309. With me here tonight is Jared Souders. Jared, I brought him up in case you have questions for him. He can be here at the podium. He's the Vice President of Development. Also with us sitting here in the front row is Martin Strank. He's a transaction associate working on the project. Council, you've been here quite a while. I've been through many council and board meetings myself. So what I'd like to do is just highlight one or two things. We did provide a package of information to you prior to the meeting. I hope you found it to be complete and understandable. But the one feature that we are proposing with this LRTA, I believe, is different and perhaps even unprecedented compared to other LRTAs that have come your way. And that is that Hillwood Properties is proposing to make total payments to the county over a proposed 4-year development schedule in a total amount of $945,000. If the LRTA is approved by the county, the first payment would come before September 30 of this year, and that would be in the amount of $247,500. I can tell you that the LRTA resolutions have passed Hazle Township. That's where this property is situated. We have proposed and agreed to similar cash payment schedules to both Hazle Township and Hazleton Area School District. The township total payout as proposed is $378,000. They have already received $99,000. The school district proposed payout is $1,890,000, and they have already received $495,000. And I would like to speak briefly about the land itself. It is, and I mentioned this in our package, it is truly deteriorated land. It is mine land, strip mine land. It is undermined. It is going to have to be remediated before Hillwood can put one shovel in the ground towards development. And as Councilman Haas mentioned earlier this evening, the BAMR grants and the RCAP grants are kind of drying up a little bit, and this developer is willing to spend what they estimate to be about $10 million in mine reclamation for this property. They are national and international developers of both manufacturing and warehousing sites. They have already a history in Luzerne County, as they have developed from scratch. And when I say from scratch, I mean they just took a piece of land, like this land. They didn't go into an existing industrial development like Humboldt down in Hazleton or Valmont. They started from scratch, did all of the development, and they put up a 1.2 million building for Samsung in about 2 years. Mm-hmm. That building is up and running, and they do it soup to nuts, so they know how to do it. And just one more comment, Mr. Councilman Lescavich, I used to take the bus from First and Church Street in Hazleton to Angelo Park when I was a kid. All the time in the summer. And the Barlettas won't give me their pizza sauce recipe either. But at this point, I would open it up to any questions. As I said, it's been kind of a long meeting, and Jared here can answer technical questions, or if you have any questions of me regarding the draft LRTA resolution, I'd be happy to address them if I can.
Mr. Thornton? And then
Real
you
quick,
have a question?
many of us on council would like to see a Trader Joe go there. A lot of people would like to see that.
I have one, Mr. Chair, if I
Attorneys,
could.
Attorney Skeen, I don't, do you have a clarification? Or microphone?
Thank you. This is an amendment, right? You already have a LRTA.
That is
and you're-
correct.
Okay.
There was, this property was, a LRTA was sought back in 2021, and it was granted. That was Blue Cup Ventures. Hillwood has taken over for Blue Cup. I think, once again, this goes to one of the issues that Councilman Haas brought up, is that, at least I've seen it as well, where speculators will come to the government bodies. They will want LRTA, and the purpose of them getting LRTA is so they can have it essentially as an asset to pitch to somebody else to buy the property. That's not Hillwood. Hillwood is a legitimate, very financially viable developer, and this LRTA is, we're proposing this primarily not only for the cash payments, but the 2021 resolution had a termination date of 3 years. We're proposing a 10-year termination date from the date of passage. So whenever this is passed, if it is passed, Hillwood will have 10 years to develop this site. Okay? I think the 3 years for the prior LRTA may have expired. I don't know the exact date on that, but Blue Cup, quite frankly, wasn't about to put anything on the property.
If I could just add to that, the reason for that longer fuse is because this is a 4-phase project. All 4 phases, all 4 buildings couldn't go at the same time and hit that 3-year application date, so that's why we're asking for a little bit longer time so we can continue to develop and deliver these buildings in a sequence that makes sense for the market.
Mr. Haas? You have a
Sure,
question?
thank you. Yeah, again, welcome, Attorney Favela and Jared, appreciate that. I think I remember this. I remember Bob Schnee Councilman Schnee talking about the big mountain right there. This is part of that parcel, right? 'Cause I'm looking.
Yeah, that's you can explain it.
The coal pile that's been there for
pile, right.
Decades.
Decades,
Yeah.
yeah. That's actually, they're working on reclaiming that now. If you drive down that section of Church Street.
So that's not part of this parcel then, for that? Because
That's
I am
on-
seeing it here on Google Earth, but,
So that's on the periphery. That's not
Okay.
part of the development project.
Okay.
That was actually, the previous owner is working with a coal reclamation company who's trying to sift through that and find some coal of value to.
that was
bring
my first
pile
question.
down.
If you're going to help mitigate that, that's what I thought you were going that direction, but.
So most of our mitigation is more what I guess I would consider some dangerous features. There's a lot of pits and piles, and when I say pits and piles, pits that are, 50, 40 feet deep that are unmarked and on an unfenced property. So there's a lot of four-wheeler activity. There's a lot of trespassing just because it's open land. So part of our reclamation work, our remediation work, is fixing those pits and piles. Another part of our remediation work is you have 4 coal seams underneath this property, so there's grouting that has to happen for these to be viable sites where you're not going to have future settlement. And then a third tier of our remediation is what they call coal wash, which is the fines left over from the mining process. This creates these pools or detention areas, and those areas are dangerous in the sense that you drive a four-wheeler into that, you're not getting out of it. Unfortunately, there's been some deaths, I believe in Luzerne County.
It was Lackawanna County.
Was that Lackawanna County?
Lackawanna County.
Thanks. So those are 3 of the remediation features that need to be addressed kind of day one before we can really start any type of development.
I was going to remember, just thinking back from years ago, that this, in my opinion, truly is worth a consideration of its LERTA. I think this is the kind of project that we're looking at, something that's it's just beyond the pale of having development, unless there's some kind of scheme going on there. Probably the wrong word to use, but schematic, I guess I should say. Scheme. But nonetheless, what I'm just going on here, but my only last question is, what do you plan exactly to construct here?
Sure. So what's been approved in Hazle Township, and it actually is 3 adjoining townships, is at this point it's 3 buildings. They're industrial buildings, so they could be anything from manufacturing to warehousing. And pretty much now it's 1 million square foot building, 1 2 million square foot building, and then another 1 million square foot building. That's what's been approved, and we would proceed, our plan would be to proceed speculatively on kind of that, like I said, in a phased sequencing to bring these projects online.
Yeah. And I would like to mention one more thing. This is different, I believe, from other LERTAs in that these payments that we're proposing are proposed to be made when Hillwood obtains the building permit. Before the building is actually built, the payments will be made. Not when the building is occupied, because as I'm sure all of you know, the building could be built and empty for months, okay? And but these are going to be made when the building permit is issued for the building.
Mr. Wilovich, then Mr. Thornton.
So that is on the estimated date, approximately around the estimated
Correct.
date that's listed?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not all up front, it's around that estimated date we'll receive those.
The first payment essentially is guaranteed by the end of September. The other payments are approximate dates, and it would be impossible to put a definitive date if it's tied to the building permit. Because as Jared said, mine reclamation, at least in my estimation, is a lot like remodeling a house. You don't know what you're confronting until you get there. So they could hit a lot more than they bargained for, but once you're in it, they got to complete it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Could you spell the name of the company now? It's not Blue Cup, it's what?
No, it's Hillwood Properties.
Hillwood Properties?
Yeah.
Based out of where?
We're based out of Dallas, Texas, but our office is right in the Lehigh Valley. We're in Allentown.
Hillwood Properties. And just a clarification here on, if council could just turn to page 53 in the package.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. Year one, and it's presented in a different format than we're accustomed to. We usually have a table, years 1 through 10, but it reads 65% of real estate taxes would be exempt during a 10-year period. So on a 10-year table, it would just read 65 10 times, right?
Yeah,
Right down?
that's the prior
So
LRTA.
that's not being requested now.
That is correct.
Page
Okay.
57, Brian.
So let me
Check
cross
out
that
57.
off. All right. So page 57, good thing I asked this because, you know, sometimes I'm slow this late at night, you know. Okay, years 1 through 7, 100% abatement, then 90, 80, 70. Plus, in addition to that, you're proposing the balloon payment of, where was that? 945,000 payable over 4 installments. 945?
That's correct.
And
Yes.
the installments would be roughly 236,000 that the county would be receiving per pay. That's 945 divided
Well,
by 4?
The payments are tied to the lots.
Oh, so it's
and-
not an equal amount over 4
Correct.
payments?
Yeah, it's
But it would be
different amount.
945
I think
total.
the second payment is higher than the first payment.
That's correct.
And
Okay.
Based on acreage.
On 59.
It's
it
based
has
on
the-
acreage.
Oh, that's on 59?
It has that
All
20
right,
point.
so that's unusual. I have not encountered a proposal like this in the past with Alerta, where we would receive some kind of lump sum upfront and periodic lump sums, in addition to that Alerta schedule.
The thinking here, I believe, is that the money's coming to the taxing body before the exemption actually starts, because it doesn't start till the building's up.
Right.
And it's the same with the school board and the township.
Thank you.
Any other council members, questions? And you said that the school district and municipalities already received payments that, since they've approved this LRTA?
Correct. They were approved earlier in the year. Their 2 payments were due on or before June 30.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one last question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Ross.
Jared, do you have a portfolio of previous projects that maybe you could share with council, your convenience, or
Yeah, we'd be happy to do
anything
so.
like that? Just an email would be sufficient, I think.
Listing on the
I think
website,
there's, yeah,
too.
we have a list on the website, but I'll put it, we'll package it together and send it to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can, Harry, I'll ask them to get it to me, and I can circulate it to council.
Whatever's convenient. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you very
okay.
much.
Thank you.
All right, you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, Mr. Perry?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to applaud Attorney Falvello and Hillwood Group for coming up with this unique plan, this unique way of giving back to the taxing body. I applaud you for thinking out of the box. I mean, we've gone through, I know I've been 7 years gone through many LRTAs, and nothing compares to this one. I mean, that's almost, $900 and some $1,000 before everything's done. Like, I mean, I applaud you for that. And well thought of and well presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, this is definitely something that's not the norm for us when we see these LRTAs come before us. So it's obviously, I believe that there's going to be some serious consideration about it.
Okay.
So thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, we very much appreciate it as well. I understand this may be on the agenda for next month.
It's possible. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Smith, you had a question?
I just have a quick question. I believe, unless I'm reading it incorrectly, you're waiving the right to appeal if the property is reevaluated at a higher amount such that the taxes would be higher?
You dug pretty deep into that. I'd have to look at that. But I think
reading
you're
a
correct.
lot.
Yeah, whatever's in the LRTA is what we're proposing, yes.
So you are waiving that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and keep in mind that the first transaction, if you will, that's going to occur is the land is going to sell, okay? And in all likelihood, in fact, it's almost guaranteed, that, that land, if Lot 1 sells from the current owner to the developer, that tax assessment is going to jump considerably, immediately, and the tax will be due then.
That's why I wanted to make sure I was understanding it correctly. Thank you very much.
We love that transfer tax, too. We just love that.
Yeah, it could be, 1% could be a lot.
If I could, Mr. Chair, too, I mean, what Joanna just brought up, that's exceedingly rare, because when these LRTAs come doing these KOZs, generally speaking, the businesses, they reassess, and they're reassessed for lower than they originally scheduled for. So hats off to you both. Seriously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you
You've been a
for-
great
Okay.
partner.
Thank you for considering Luzerne County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Number 4, receive and discuss budget reports for June 2024. Ms. Rozelle?
Hi, good evening. I'll go over briefly the budget reports for the month of June. The first report is the revenue report. Revenue earned is at 76% of budget, or $126 million. Tax collections are at 89%, or $110,000. I'm sorry, $110 million. Expenses are at $57,337,000, which is 37% of the budget. So again, favorable. We're 6 months into the year, and we're only at 37%. The next report you have is the listing of the budget transfers. There were quite a few added for the month of July. There are 14 that are on that list for the month of July, which you've all received copies of. There were 3 added for the month of June. Next, you have your accounts payable report, which is running at about 37%, or $57 million. Slightly below last year. We were at $62 million at the same time last year. The treasurer's report continues to show a healthy cash balance, $214,906,000 at the end of June. Cash balance at the end of May was $218 million, so it's down a little bit. Our interest earned for the month of June is $430,000. Of that, ARPA accounts for $265,000. So our year-to-date interest as of the end of June is at $2.8 million. Our ARPA cash balance is at $65,975,000. Interest earned on ARPA is $1.7 million, and our total ARPA interest earned so far is up to $6.2 million at this point. The ARPA?
ARPA interest?
The ARPA, sure. So the ARPA cash balance is at $65,975,000. The ARPA interest earned year-to-date is at $1.7 million, and our total ARPA interest earned is at $6.2 million
6.2.
at the end of June. The interest earned for the month of June on ARPA, just June by itself, was $265,000.
All right. Any questions?
Sorry, I know I went
No,
quickly. I
that's
just want
okay.
one more thing to say.
Oh, go ahead. No, I apologize.
So the RFP for the 2024 audit, which is the 1 year with the option for 3 additional years. So that's 2024 through 2027 is due on Friday. So this Friday, July 26th by 3 o'clock. And then the audit RFP for OHS has also been published, and proposals are due by Monday, August 5th at 4. So we'll have both of those to review soon. Does anyone have any questions?
Council members?
Sorry.
Mr. Haas?
Hey, Mary, good to see you. Thanks for the great work. How about our Tran, the 2024? Can we pay that back yet if we're
We've
at
paid it
7?
back. That's just, so the what you're
I thought
looking
that
at
was
are
a
the cash
2023
account
we paid back.
titles. So
Okay.
what happens is when we borrow the money, we open a new account because that's what we have to do. So the account is titled 2024 Tran. So until we move that money out of there, you're going to keep seeing it on the report. And we don't move money out of an account that's earning a higher interest rate than another account. So, you still see a 2023 Tran account there too, at a bank, because that's the bank that we used in 2023. So again, when we have to transfer money to the general fund, we'll transfer it out of the account that's earning the lowest interest rate. So they stay there forever. Well, not forever. I mean, when the balance gets to 0, obviously you won't see the account title anymore. But until it gets to 0, you're going to keep seeing them.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Sabatino?
When did we pay the?
We paid it off
March.
early. So we paid it off in March of last year,
Thank
of
you.
this year.
Of this year.
Yep.
And I
Any
think
other
that
questions?
one other thing Ms. Rozelle touched on was very fiscally responsible of us taking money out of accounts that are bearing the lowest amount of interest before we take the ones out of the higher amounts of interest. That's something that I don't really know if we've done in the past, but we're doing it now, and I think that's awesome. Anybody else? Mr. Thornton?
And I want to applaud Ms. Rozelle because getting that Tran paid off in March saved us, the county, hundreds of thousands, I don't know exactly how much, in interest. And that's a benefit to the taxpayers, so thank you, Ms. Rozelle.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Moving on. Number 5, discussion regarding the resolution for an ECMS project approval for the West Nanticoke Bridge. Manager Crocomo?
I'm going to have Nick vote.
Good evening, everybody. This agreement will allow us to partner with PennDOT, which they will be guiding us through the process for the West Nanticoke Bridge. So application, pre-construction stuff committee of Luzerne County employees that will pick our engineer for this process, construction, post-construction, and so on. Any questions?
And this is, because we receive tip money, this is the process that we have to go through. So we'll have the committee, they'll review the applications, and then, of course, it'll come to council for approval.
Right. Any questions, council? All right. Thank you very much. Number 6, discussion regarding the resolution authorizing the use of Luzerne County Recreation and Conservation Fund grant money to repair and restore the Ellen Webster Palmer statue.
Good evening, council. The operations department is recommending that we complete the entire scope of the repairs needed for the Ellen Webster Palmer statue. That statue was in our south lawn. Unfortunately, weather, the elements, and some vandalism has left it in despair. So it is being housed at Bout Studios. It's been there for quite some time before my time in operations. We did do an RFP last year. We received responses, and then for whatever reason, I believe it was for funding, the project was put on hold. Bout Studios was the respondent that was the lowest bidder at the time. We received the responses back in August of 2023, so we negotiated with them in the meantime. Their price came in at $47,130 in August of last year, and then reconnecting with them, we negotiated, it's a slight increase, it's $48,610 to do. It would be cleaning, sealing, replacing, and repairing the fractures and deterioration in the statue. Any questions?
And just by way of history, you want to give a little brief history about the meaning of Mrs. Palmer, what
Yes.
she's done for
Yes.
Luzerne County?
So Mrs. Palmer established the Boys Industrial Association in the Wilkes-Barre area in the 1890s, and she did this to educate and provide social activities for the working children in the area, or the breaker boys. So she dedicated a lot of her extra time to enrich the lives of these children. So we think that this is something important that we would like to get back into the South Lawn and put this back there for our community to see.
Mr. Haas?
Yeah, and Ms. Crocomo, thank you for making this a priority. I have several very passionate people about the Palmer statue, and I think maybe we can invite her to the deer party next year. I think that'll be something to celebrate. So, and for Councilman Thornton, that Act 13 money, appropriate use of that money. So, thanks for what you and the team did there.
Mr. Lescavage?
So I just want to let you know that I fought Brian Thornton on this. He originally did not want to spend the $6,450 to put her nose back, but I said we must do that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
I'm not even going to address that comment. Just for the record, Act 13 committee met recently, and we duly passed funds for the restoration of the statue. The committee passed it, so it is coming out of Act 13 money. Thank you, Mr. Haas.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes, I just want to thank you especially because this means a lot to me. A lot of my family served in the coal mines over the last 100, 150 years. A lot of history there, and historical preservation is very important to me. So it's glad to see this being restored and being brought down to the South Lawn. Thank you.
And just for anyone that is not aware, the statue is of Mrs. Palmer and 2 breaker boys. So.
We're making a concerted effort to celebrate the rich cultural history of Luzerne County, and this is pivotal to have this statue back on the South Lawn. So I appreciate your consideration.
All right. Thank you very much. Number 7, discussion regarding the resolution approving the use of opioid settlement proceeds to fund warm handoff services and/or certified recovery specialist services.
So 7, 8, and 9 are dealing with the opioid money that we're receiving from the litigation and from the trust. As all of you are aware at this point, we have an August 31st deadline to earmark the monies, the first amount of monies that we received as a result of this settlement. We went back to the drawing board to find projects that we are very confident fall within what's called Exhibit E of the settlement document, which outlines projects that are approved to use the funds. We have members of the commission here, the committee, who will speak to each one of these individually. These are projects that we already fund. So what we will be doing is augmenting these projects going forward. So for the number 7 discussion, I believe we have Lynn Hill is on the Zoom.
Yes, correct.
So
Go ahead, Ms. Hill.
do you want to discuss the warm handoff and the certified recovery specialist services?
Certainly, absolutely. Thank you, Manager Kokomo. Good evening, Council. So handoff programs and certified recovery specialists have played a key role in assisting individuals who are struggling with SUDs or substance use disorders. Warm handoff programs specifically set up services in the presence of the person struggling. So as compared to traditional referrals or services, when someone may be handed a business card and told, call this phone number, get an appointment, make your own appointment, the warm handoff programs have an individual assisting the person struggling with making the appointment, with getting them the services that they need to help them navigate that system. And the same with the certified recovery specialists. These are individuals such as our own commission member, Mary Butera, who have lived experience. Mary is a shining example of a successful certified recovery specialist who is passionate about helping those individuals navigate the system, get the services they need, and letting them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, giving them hope and showing them empathy and compassion. And these services, we currently, as Manager Kokomo mentioned, we do have 4 service providers that we work with, that we have current contracts with: Children's Service Center, Wyoming Valley Alcohol and Drug, Pathway to Recovery, and New Roots Recovery Center.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Is there anyone else from the committee that may want to speak to this? I know Mary is here. Okay. It's up to you. You don't have to, but.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Well, you know what, I will. Hi, everybody. I just want to say, I know I get really nervous, so if I get emotional, I just want to put that out there first. But I just wanted to let you know that, during the committee meetings, there were, in the beginning, the media campaign that was brought up. I had many people that came to me. We were under the impression we had to spend that money, and we do have to spend that money by August 31st, right? August 31st. We were under the impression we didn't have very many options. After going back, we realized that as long as we're in contract with, in Exhibit E, as long as we're in that parameter, that there were other things we could do with that money. I am thrilled with the options that we came up with. But the sublocade option for the prison, I think, is phenomenal. Working in this field for the last 10 years, I have seen great results because of the sublocade. It's something that can't be sold. It's something that is not put in somebody's body every day. It's a 28-day shot. I think it's amazing. I've seen great results from the sublocade shot. The warm handoff CRSs that work in the community, like it was said, thank you very much, Lynn, that was great. But we are out in the community. If we get a call, we are out there. If they're under a bridge, we go under the bridge. If they're in a homeless encampment, we'll go there. If they're in an emergency room and we get a call, we'll go. So those are the things. You don't have to make your own appointments. You don't have to reach out to us. We will go to you. I think that's extremely important, especially with somebody that is struggling with addiction, because they need help. They need direction. There are so many things that are offered in this community that people don't know. There are so many barriers, but there's other resources that are offered, and the people don't know how to access the resources. And that's what a warm handoff CRS can help with. And as far as like prevention with the schools, I think that's just another way of, supporting the community and the children so that they have the knowledge they need to avoid the upcoming, because there's just so many problems. It's devastating to see individuals, families, a community as a whole just affected by the opioid epidemic. And that's all I have to share.
That was very good, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the committee who wants to speak before I turn the matter over to Jim Wilbur?
Go ahead, Mr. Wilbur.
Well, first of all, good evening, council. Good evening, Manager Kokomo. Our portion, really all of this goes hand in hand, but the warm handoff is going to benefit the corrections as well. And so will the sublocade, obviously. But instead of me telling you about sublocade, I have our medically assisted treatment coordinator, Megan, here. And I'm sure she is dying to tell you a little bit about it because she's been here a long time now. So here's Megan.
I'm all prepped up on it. My name is Megan Serpico. I'm the MAT coordinator. I'm a registered nurse at the Luzerne County Jail. This is my first time doing anything like this, and I get nervous public speaking, so I'm sorry if I stutter. But like the director just said, when it comes to the warm handoffs, that really will be huge for the jail. As the MAT coordinator, everything has been a learning process since I came in August of 2023, so everything has really been learning, and we're finally starting to see results with the changes that we've made. When it comes to the handoff process, having that available in order to get our patients upon release right into treatment when they're walking out the door is a huge, huge part of their recovery and their success in their recovery. One thing that we've found to be a problem for us is people being released, not having those resources when they do get out, or not even having something as simple as an updated driver's license because their driver's license expired when they were in jail. And now they have no option to get any medications or see any providers or anything, and then they end up in a whole ugly situation. But having every appointment set up for them upon release, and also being able to give them those resources is a huge, huge thing. When it comes to sublocade, I'm a huge advocate for sublocade. When it first came out years ago, before I was even introduced to it in corrections, I knew it was going to be a great thing. So basically the sublocade injection is an injection that's given once every 28 days or 4 weeks in the belly. It's a very, very different drug like no other. It has a chemical property that once it's injected subcutaneously. Once it's injected, it mixes with the compounds in our belly fat, and that combination causes it to solidify, and it creates what's called a depot. So when you feel it about 5 minutes after you inject, it feels like there's a little marble in the belly. Over the next 28 days, every single day, a little layer of that medication comes off, and the patient receives their dose for the day, and that depot becomes smaller. 28 days later, that depot might still be there, but now it's basically ineffective, and now you're going to go into another area to inject it, and then that person gets that dose again. Sublocade is unique because when compared to what we give now, which is Subutex, which is a pill, buprenorphine is the base medication for both of these medicines. With the medication that you take orally by mouth, you have to dissolve it under your tongue. As it dissolves under the tongue, it has to be done correctly. If you swallow it, it will not work and it'll be rendered ineffective. That dose is completely ruined for that day. If some people that have liver issues might not metabolize it correctly. If you eat this big of a meal or too many carbs beforehand, it might not metabolize correctly. So there's barriers with getting your blood levels to that certain point for this treatment to be effective. Where with Sublocade, the way that it works is the first 2 months, the people are getting a 300 milligram dose. On the time of the third month, it turns to a 100 milligram dose. The goal of those first two 300 milligram doses is to get the person above a certain threshold. That's the ideal serum value, blood value that you want to get them to. After that, you go to 100 milligrams. That 100 milligrams every month keeps that person above that number that we want them to be at. When they're above that number, it stops any cravings that they might have. There's no detox symptoms, there's no withdrawal symptoms, and the biggest part that any person who's received it has told me is no cravings, because cravings, apart from the physical withdrawal symptoms from not getting any drugs at all, the cravings are the biggest struggle. Cravings, and in combination with depression and anxiety, are the biggest struggle, and then that's what leads to relapse or taking more of something that they shouldn't. When it comes to Sublocade, even after, you could be on it for years, and if you decide to stop, you will not experience any detox symptoms, because it takes a significant amount of time for the drug to leave your system. A slow amount leaves your body every day. So unlike the oral medications, it doesn't hit you hard where the person will become physically ill with GI symptoms or body, like flu-like symptoms, basically. Over time, maybe 2 months later, they might start thinking about doing drugs again, or might be getting more cravings, but they're not getting physically ill. And that's been a huge part for the success of Sublocade, because many people that start to experience those physical symptoms instantly go into drugs that cause them to relapse without seeking any alternative treatment. So I'm sorry, that was kind of like a word vomit of the mouth. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, you're great.
I'm sweating.
You're great.
Any questions?
I just have one,
Appreciate
Mr. Chair. if I
Yeah,
could.
go ahead.
Yeah, Meg, what's the success rate on this kind of approach?
So, I mean, I really don't know numbers for you, because again, I'm the MAT coordinator at the jail, so I'm not, I don't work for Sublocade or anything, but from what people have told me and what I have seen with inmates that have come in that are prescribed this medication, because we've been continuing them on this medicine if they come in and they're on it, when they come back in, they have when they come in upon arrest, the only drug in their system is buprenorphine, which is what we want, because that's what's in Sublocade. Compared to somebody else that might not be as successful on Suboxone or Subutex, that also has meth and fentanyl and a whole gamut of other drugs in their urine when they first come in. For the majority, the people that have come in on Sublocade have remained compliant with their meds, remain compliant with going to all of their appointments on the outside with their community MAT center, and I really have, side effect-wise, nobody's really told me any huge complaints other than it burning for a couple days after, and that's it. I mean, I can only go off of what my patients tell me, so.
I mean, it sounds like it's
bad.
decreased your workload as well as your staff, because you're just giving less doses over a month-long period.
That's not even the exciting part, though. I think that the more exciting part of it is something that's actually working to
that's
help
what I'm
these
talking
people.
about.
Because I really think that it could be a significant change in people by getting them to stick to this thing. And another huge thing is, like you just said, you're not getting that daily dose. When it comes to recidivism, one thing has been how overwhelmed people get when they do get released. Like, I've just been in jail for 6 months and now I'm out, and the last thing I want to do is go to this appointment and take these meds, and I can't even think straight because there's so much that I want to do, so many people that I want to see, and they're not going to that appointment. They're not going right to the pharmacy. They're not doing what they should be. Where when you have something like this where you can get the shot and then be released, you're not worried about having to need your shot for X amount of weeks, or you don't have to go to this appointment for another 2 weeks for your first follow-up or your first consult outpatient. So it's bringing different changes and different parts, I guess, from all different levels, I suppose.
Well, I know with addiction, the recidivism rate is super high.
Right.
That's like at 90%. It's got to be up there somewhere,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so I think I'm not alone just thinking we want to spend this money wisely about something that's going to work.
Right.
So this gives me hope.
I think that
You know,
would
truly.
be very, very, very wise.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just talking for me in the jail. I just think generally in terms of opiate use disorder, it's going to be a very, very positive change for medicine.
I just have one quick question. Being that this is an injectable medication, is this something that has like special storage requirements, and do we have them at the jail?
Yep, it's refrigerated. Just no freezing or anything, and we do have accommodations for that
Okay.
at the jail.
All right.
Also, in any patient that is prescribed Sublocade, they are unable to administer it themselves, they'll have to go to a clinic or a facility, like Clean Slate, Geising, or any service center that offers any type of mat basically to get it. They cannot give it themselves, so they can't sell it to anybody else. They can't abuse it like that. And even after receiving it, it can't be diverted unless it's cut out of somebody, which we would know. So,
Thank you.
That, just real quick, that is the key, diversion from a security, custody standpoint, and that's why this is a big advantage, because that diversion is going to be almost cut down, I'll never say zero, but very close to zero. So it's huge advantage, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Krishnowski.
Is it easy to get, like, is there a lot of places that do offer it? Like, if I was to just get
Yes.
out of jail, like, because
Yes.
sometimes places are hard to find, do you know what I mean? And it'd be-
Every single MAT clinic, even the methadone clinics that primarily advertise just methadone, also give this and other buprenorphine products. So I haven't spoken to any community clinic that does not offer Sublocade.
And they keep their records to know, and do they have to go back to that one as well? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, they don't have to go back to that same center, and anybody that receives Sublocade, the Pennsylvania PDMP, which is the drug monitoring system, their information gets entered into that on the date that they receive it. So if somebody comes in and they tell me that they got Sublocade X amount of days or weeks ago, I'm able to look them up in the system, see exactly what date they received their last shot, and then I know how to time it for when they're due for their next one.
and even how many milligrams, right? Because they're
Right,
different.
right, and because the first two are 300, and then after that, it's 100 a month.
Thank you.
Ms. Stevenson?
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us all of that information. That was amazing. Your career path, your field is in high regard and high appreciation in my life for sure. I have a question. So for someone who's experiencing that, going through opioid use, right, and they are administered this medicine, how quickly does that go into effect for their physically?
So for somebody that comes in using street or illicit opiates, the recommendation is for them to get oral Subutex or an oral buprenorphine product for 7 days, 1 week. They don't want, if you were to instantly receive the injectable, you could have some negative effects putting you, basically it's called precipitated withdrawal, where if you used fentanyl yesterday and you got buprenorphine, they're two different drugs. They one's an opiate, one's an antagonist, so they fight each other, and it causes you to get sick for a day or two. So we don't want that. So when we have people come in and they are illicit drug users or IV drug user or any type of opiate user, what we do is we start them on our detox protocol where oral buprenorphine is then initiated, and then they go on to the oral medication for 7 days, and then hopefully once this is approved, we'll be able to start giving it to people within the first 8 to 10 days of them coming into the jail.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council members? Mr. Thornton?
Yeah, Megan, I just want to personally thank you for all you do over
Thank
there.
you.
You do a wonderful work,
Thanks
and
for
you're
not-
saving
thanks for not
lives.
getting
And
aggravated.
on behalf of council, thank you and great presentation.
Thank you
tonight.
very much.
Thank you.
And then we have one final program, which is a prevention education program. Ms. Hill?
Thank you, Manager Crocomo. So I believe earlier it was Councilwoman Krasnowski who mentioned that our children are our future, and that is 100% correct. So one of the recommendations from the commission is to use some of our funding for our current contracts with our prevention education programs that we work with Children's Service Center, Pathway to Recovery, and not New Roots, I apologize, Wyoming Valley Alcohol and Drug. And we'd like to expand those services, expand the programs throughout the schools in the 12 districts to help our children understand the perils of addiction, to help our children understand there are resources available to them, to get ahead of it, to educate them, and to let them know that when they're facing struggles, there's different options, and that there are resources available to them.
questions from council?
I just have one, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Hey, Ms. Hill, thanks for being on. So are you saying we can use this fund to offset our local match for these state funds? Did I hear you correctly in saying that?
That is.
So we would, oh, go ahead, I'm so sorry.
We can use monies for matches with PCCD grants, but I don't know about the other programs. We need to look into that.
Very good. Yeah, well done. Thanks, Romilda.
Ms. Stevenson?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Hill, and thank you for the opioid committee. You know, I know it's been a rough couple, like the last 3 weeks has been hard, and I know a lot of us have been tirelessly working to find the research and programming and projects that can lead us into the next future and using this money effectively. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the presentation. That was fabulous. I hope to hear a lot more from the nurses from that facility, more of you guys that are on the ground doing some of this work. I want it to be heard. I want the people to know that you're there and this is something that we are actively working to address. And now for 2024, it is a major priority for us to make sure that these programs are executed with precision and with intention. So as we continue, I'm excited to hear more and more about some of these programs that come up. I can let you know that I'm also working with other community members to find more information, more research, and more programming that we can hopefully implement across the county. That type of collaboration is extremely important. That type of community involvement is extremely important. Thank you, and I look forward for those future conversations for sure.
Just so council realizes, part of being part of this settlement and with the trust, we need to show outcomes. So you will be getting reports about the outcomes of these programs that we're basically investing in. And we will have a public hearing in September. I don't have an exact date, but it will be in September because we will be receiving monies for the next 18 years, and we need to make decisions about it.
Thank you, Manager Crocomo. And just to finish up, I just want, oh, Ms. Krishnowski, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say or ask, I know that when we talk about this, we're going to have drop-off places for elderly people or people to drop off medication and stuff. And I guess I'm asking because it was funny. I was walking yesterday, and what did I find? A bottle of pills. And I went online and I looked it up, and sure enough, they were prescription pills. And it's like, okay, like, so maybe there should be more places to have these around that you can, rather than leaving them hang around your house, waiting for somebody to take them or God knows what.
We do have drop boxes. We have them here in the courthouse, but that's one of the programs that we can use this money for.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. And just to finish up, I just wanted to say that I thought that this was a great solution to the problem that we had. And the solution came not just from the committee, but it came from the comments that we received from council and the public over the last couple of weeks. I still believe that I think this media program would be something that we should look into at some point in the future. But for now, these are some fantastic things that we're already doing that I'm very happy that we're going to be funding with this money. And like I said, great solution to the problem that we had. So thank you very much to the committee. Oh, wait, no. We need, I apologize. I would love to do that, but we need to give the public an opportunity to comment on our agenda. So nice try. But we do have public comment now, and I have one slip for Dr. Christine Wysocki.
Hi, Council. I will be faster than 3 minutes, so we could all go home. Dr. Christine Wysocki from Butler Township. I just wanted to comment on the subdivision in Butler Township and comment directly with Councilwoman McDermott. To speak on behalf of Butler Township residents, I think a lot of us are against the development of this land area. It is my backyard. And one of the things that I do enjoy living down there is that green space. You know, things that we are concerned about is how this is going to affect our infrastructure there. Has there been traffic impact studies for the residential area that's already there and the increase in the amount of traffic that will be in that area? Another big concern for me is our current Hazleton area school district is overwhelmed and overrun by population. Our school right now in Drums has some grades that are at full capacity, so they are shipping students students and transferring around the district because we can't fit them in already. So if we're bringing in 70, 80 more housing and they 4 family members in that area, we are increasing our population by a lot. The other thing that I'm concerned about is quantity versus quality. You know, I do that in lifestyle medicine. Sometimes more isn't always better. You know, sometimes we have to invest in what we have and keep what we have in the history we have there. The rural community is rich in history there. We are now, with more development, they're making more into a suburban community than a rural community. And we're seeing our land being dissipated. We're seeing the environment impacted in that area. Pennsylvania wildlife is big in that area. We have large deer population, a lot of wildlife that is in that area and roaming around, and we're going to displace them if we develop those lands. You know, that also impacts public safety. When you're displacing large herds of deer, you know, it also increases traffic accidents, deer pushing into roadways in busy areas. The other thing is the impact of emergency services in the area. You know, that's increasing our police force. We already have an overabundance of people in the area that depend on a volunteer fire department and EMS, and sometimes those services are very impacted by the amount of calls they get. So as we increase the population, that is also going to increase too, and something that we significantly have to consider in the area. So I'm definitely for increasing money and opportunities in the county, but I don't always think that this type of growth is the way to do that.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment in the audience? Mr. Griffith.
When we were talking about Butler Township and this development of that land, we all look back at the juvenile detention center, that everybody's hair was on fire to get rid of this property. Not too long ago, actually. They're going to develop it. It's going to be a great, wonderful hotel. It was going to be all this great and wonderful things. There's nothing going on there. I asked a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was even 2 months ago, what is the status of that person who bought that property? Haven't heard yet. But we need to take into account some of these things that we're doing. How much revenue are we going to get from that property in exchange for the ruining of the environment? Is that something that's worthwhile or not? And I don't think there's any price tag you could put on the amount of farmland and the aesthetics that we're going to destroy by selling that property off just for the immediacy of a couple of money, a little bit of money that may or may not help the county at this point. And lastly, I just want to say to Harry's point about the budget and about the status of the finances of the county, I also was here in 2012 when we started the charter and saw the $400 million debt service and all of the things that we wrestled with for years and years and years, and countless budget returns of findings that we weren't doing things properly and we weren't reconciling properly, and all of those things that came from 2012 till today. And to hear the refreshing report from the auditors to say a lot of this stuff has been cleaned up, and they didn't give us a lot of dings on procedures like reconciling accounts and doing journal entries wrong and all of those type of things that are violations on our budget. That's very important, especially to me who looks at that kind of stuff, but more importantly to the auditors who give us the ratings of the audit as well as our credit rating. So the budget report today was probably the best report we've seen so far. It goes to the cooperation, as I said earlier, as I've been standing here. There's a lot of collaboration and cooperation that goes on in this county that didn't happen before. And I did mention this before, that I've been getting concerns from people that says Walter doesn't squawk and carry on at podiums anymore. What happened to Walter? This is what happened to Walter. Cooperation and collaboration. I don't have to stand here and do that. I can, if I don't get cooperation and we don't work together, we can do that. And we can go back to that day. But this county is going in a different direction, and that's good for everybody, including me. So the people who make the comment that, geez, we need to get that watchdog back that constantly stands at this podium and screams and carries on in council about things they're not doing right. I don't want to see that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I like this guy, and I like working with council. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, and I think the budget speech, the thing that we got from Baker Tilly tonight was just a testament to the great work that we're doing. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Thank you. Any other comments from the public in the audience? I'm sorry. There's one person on the Zoom. Their phone number. Go ahead. State your name and municipality, please.
Mr. Chair, this is Mark Rabo of Hazleton speaking. I know you guys missed me, but I'm back in town. I wanted to let you know that, as far as I echo what Mr. Controller Griffith said, I get the same comments down here saying, what happened to Mr. Rabo? Why isn't he commenting so much anymore? He comments about a few things, but not as much as he did. And I would attest the same thing, because the county is the county manager, the administration, and the council is willing to be receptive instead of resisting to the community. So hats off to all of you guys, in doing that. Also, to piggyback off what the good doctor said in relation to Butler Township, as you well know, Mr. Chair and members of council and Manager Crocomo and the people that are at the meeting, I have said for how many meetings about Hazleton in regards to the warehouse development in correlation with the needed housing. You had presentations tonight about the new LERTAs. You're going to end up, Mr. Chair, my concern, and Manager Crocomo, my concern, and members of the Luzerne County community, my biggest concern right now is with all these LERTAs going on, once the construction is done, and you're going to need all this new housing because for the companies that are going to expect to have these new potential employees, we are going to end up like Lehigh County, which had the Lehigh County commissioners and their county executive had to reestablish their redevelopment authority and infuse money through their general fund to establish new housing developments. I just came back, Mr. Chair, from a national conference of real estate developers, financiers, and lenders, and also big time investors. These are investors that are worth at least $20 to $30 million to put down in cash. And you know what they said at this conference? They said that there's no incentive, and also the states are not willing to work to advance and modernize their legislation to give them the tools and the ability to further this housing. Little Havana just got $100 million of new development, and for the council members who care about disadvantaged communities, Little Havana is a very poor community within Miami City. So they just got developers that are willing to modernize and develop and tear down the old housing development and put modernization through their ARPA money. So in conclusion, Mr. Chair and members of council, I think there needs to be a collaboration between the county and the state to modernize the development that's needed in Luzerne County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.